All right, we'll move forward then to the Regional Facility Annual Reports. First up is Lori Main. Lori, welcome back. Good to have you back. And the floor is yours.
Well, first things first, I really appreciate, I know all of you came here to hear about the Kitsap Conference Center, so I really appreciate that. I walked in and thought, oh my gosh. So anyway, number one, thanks for being here and supporting Kitsap County, because that's what we're here about. I'm here to talk a little bit about the Kitsap Conference Center and what's been happening over there. I had the opportunity last time, pretty much the same time last year, to just chat about what's happening at the Conference Center, and I thought it was important to kind of look back to look forward, as long as we don't stare. So for those of you who weren't here, this will be your first time. For those of you who were here last time, this will be your second time. So let's go through this. Can everybody hear me, by the way? If you can't, just wait. Yeah. All right, so this is me. I'm Lori Main. I'm the general manager. I have been in the software and hospitality management, hotel management, property management. Just giving you a little background of who I am. I joined the company here in the Kitsap Conference Center in 2017, actually late August 2017. I was born in Spokane, Washington. I have called Kitsap County, Big Bridge Island, my home since 1995, and I am married to Jeff. Last year it was 35 years, this year it's 36, so remember I'm just changing some things up here a little bit. I have a son, a dog, a cat, and a soon-to-be daughter-in-law come August, so exciting things happening in my world. When we talked initially about what was going on at the Conference Center in 2017, things were a little bit rocky, but what we were excited about is talking about what was going to happen in 2018. So when you look at these numbers up here, we presented the idea that we had 88% on the books in terms of contracted business as contrasted to the previous year's entire business. So we were pretty bullish. And then that was, 77% to the previous year's business, and 88%, or 77% to the budget, 88% to the previous year. And we were forecasting $100,000 over what we had given as a budget. One of the things we want to speak to is when you give a budget to the city, you're making the budget sometimes up in July and August, because you have to present by September 1st. So sometimes you're doing the best you can looking back to look forward, and I'm pleased to say we're looking forward and saying it was a pretty good year. In 5 minutes, let's just kind of walk through. Last year we talked about segments and trends and what we're going to do. That's a little overzealous. We're not going to do that. We're going to talk about the sales focus at the Conference Center, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in Bremerton Harborside. So marketing versus sales. I always share this because there's a sales pipeline, and we all talk about when we find out about things and how we learn about things and what is it we're trying to do to know about stuff. And one of the opportunities I had when I first arrived was I realized there was sort of an awareness problem when it comes to the Conference Center outside of Kitsap. And so our team really took some time to evaluate what we needed to do. And so we took a sort of a awareness gap approach. And what were we going to do to talk about the awareness gap? How are we going to close that awareness gap? And so we decided our actions for 2018 were really trying to understand we have a base of business, but what we want to try to do is increase that base of business. And increasing that base of business, in a sense, means reducing the percentage it is to the whole. And I'm pleased to say we were able to do that this year in 2018. We were able to reduce it down, but still do more revenue. So we were calling on the right companies, calling on the right pieces of business. We realized we needed to go after more conferences, more multi-day events, really go out and seek, find, and basically convert those pieces of business into the Bremerton market. And how do we find them? We talked about what we were going to do in terms of Seattle-based corporations. We talked about the fact that we were going to go after Washington State Association executive conferences. That's a conference itself. That's an association in the state of Washington of groups that manage association business. And also the Society of Government Meeting Planners. The Society of Government Meeting Planners, it's hard to yell and speak at the same time. Sorry. It's a tough organization to get part of, because what you have to do is you have to, number one, be invited. Secondly, you have to bring a meeting planner with you. And more importantly, that meeting planner has to be a viable meeting planner within the organization. So I'm really proud of the fact that we, at the Conference Center, were able to get involved in that. And I'm even more proud to say that since 2018's work that our sales manager, Claire, did, She's now on the board. So we're really getting an opportunity to get involved in those multi-day meeting events, etc. So we're just quickly going to say, how did this work?
Lori?
Yeah. Bless you. Seattle-based corporations, I think we did okay. I mean, there is still this moat idea in the corporate world of Seattle. They do want to come over. We've had a couple of wins, but it still is sort of difficult between, do I get on the Washington State Ferry and look at the Washington State Ferry, or am I looking at Kitsap Transit? When is the commuter ferry, et cetera? So we had a little bit of rough start with that. Once we get 2 ferries, we're really comfortable about being able to go back after that conference business, or excuse me, that Seattle-based business. But right now, give us a C. I think we did okay. The State Association business, we got about $140,000 more of business from that market than we ever had before. So we're very, very happy with what's happened there. And same thing with the government meetings. Being able to get business that books further out because we've been able to create a relationship with BMI Hospitality, who are the hotels that run Fairfield and Hampton. So we can actually go after a piece of business like any hotel would. Basically, you do your meetings at our place, you do the rooms there, we send you 1 contract, we're ready to go. And we've had some real good success with that as well. So the outcome in 2018, we were over budget by $415,000. We were prior year over by $536,000. To budget GOP, as you can see, we flowed there. And I haven't run a lot of places where I've been able to use those kind of numbers, but it was kind of exciting year in 2018. So what was the secret sauce? I mean, what did we do? And there are 3 words that Columbia Hospitality has used, and what we do is we have a general managers meeting, and our first meeting we had in 2017 was talking about urgency. In 2018 was talking about saying yes, and this year is connecting. We really did that well in the sense that the resulting is, transformative outcomes. We're not selling the conference center, we're selling a dream. We're saying, if you have something you want to do here at the KCC, we're going to be the first to get you a proposal. We're going to be the first to return your phone call, because we have a sense of urgency. We're going to say yes a lot more. Not, oh, I don't think I can do that. It's like, gosh, let me see what I can do, and let's get that taken care of. And more importantly, we're connecting with the community, connecting with it. What is it you need? What is it we can do? And how is it we can create these outcomes, basically to make you have a fantastic event at our facility? So that was 2018. Talking about 2019, you kind of have to use a little bit of looking back to look forward. And one of the things we do like is we like to see the pace of where we're at. Well, so if you were to take and look these 3, or excuse me, each of these segments over, you can see we're basically even to last year. So while we had that hockey stick opportunity, as much as I would love to say we're going to do another, $500,000 more this year, I don't think so, but I do feel like we're going to stay on pace in 2019 because we're getting really good feedback from those calls that we made in 2018. The more important thing is we're really keeping pace with technology. When our team members are out trying to find business and they're not in the office, that doesn't preclude them from being able to take the call. It doesn't preclude them because we went to a VoIP system. So if I have my cell phone with me and I happen to be out of the office, someone calls my desk, they're still going to get me because I have it with my cell phone. Same thing with all of the systems we use for our property management systems to be able to book things. The teams can book where they're at rather than have to be in the office. So, quick question to this group. Are there any questions that you might have about 2018 before we move on to any other areas? Anyone? Nothing? Any comments? Ooh-ahs? Nothing? Thank you. Ooh-ah. Okay, cool. So we're going to walk here. We're just going to talk a little bit about Bremerton Harborside. And when I say Bremerton Harborside, I'm referring to the destination of Bremerton. And here's the challenge. A lot of what we have to do with KCC is tell people about Bremerton and try to really coalesce the concept of who is Bremerton. Not what is it, who are we? What do we represent? Why would you come here? And one of the big challenges initially I presented back then, if you all remember, was really coming up with that voice, coming up with that differentiation, coming up with the why. So we've been really, I'm proud to say, working on this, trying to figure out how to, shuck and jive, figure out what we need to do, and I'm pleased to say, thanks to Denise Fry's leadership at the Bremerton Chamber, she, actually Jeremy, myself, a few others, we're starting to get together to really answer that question. So number one, the destination the learning, the awareness of like, oh, I didn't know Bremerton did that. Oh, I had no idea, which then will sell KCC. So the idea is right now in the works. I'm telling you that we're working on that. You can hold me to that and let us know how we're doing. Jeremy might be able to tell you. Denise will be able to tell you. But the point is, this is one of the areas we're definitely working on to create a destination, to create a life. But there is, last year I said I think Kitsap Conference Center is ready for a refresh. I think it's still ready for a refresh. And I had last year 2 areas that we were going to focus on. One was more the technology needs of today's user, and the second was kind of just 21st century design, wayfinding, and then the upgrade, kind of just refresh the property. It's been 14 years since the property's actually been refreshed. But I added another one, and that's the physical office that the sales team, when they all are there, have to share, which is 3 of them in one space. And as you all know, finding great talent, which we have, and I'm thrilled with this team, is one thing. Keeping great talent is giving them the resources that they need. So what I'm doing, hopefully, is speaking here to our PFD group, is really just asking, what can we do that gets the stakeholders, gets the people in the room, that really answers the question of where is the Kitsap Conference Center going to go? What are we looking to with those refreshes? What do we want to see based on all of the wonderful things that are happening in the Kitsap area? And I'm just hoping that we have the opportunity to recognize that there are some funds. I'll be presenting something to Michael, who will be presenting something to you. It's a minor figure, and my hope is that we'll be able to get the stakeholders in the room talking about where do we want Kitsap Conference Center to go, and what does it mean to the Kitsap region and to those other individuals in this room. I said when I was presenting to like 9 people last year, it was not this many at all. That 2018 is just the beginning, and I'm really here to say, I'm proud to say 2018 was just the beginning, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we'll be saying when we look all back and say, remember that room that you were thinking there would be 5 people in, and there were a few more than 5 people. So, what questions can I answer? Okay. Really? Nothing? Okay.
So Lori, when are you going to come to us with your minor financial requirements?
I promise it is. Because again, I don't know what we're asking, if it's 100,000, 150, or 1.5. I mean, I think really the right stakeholders should be in the room to make that decision, but I think a little prompting on behalf of who are those, number 1, who are the right stakeholders, and number 2, who can help guide those decision processes. I will send something to Michael via email tomorrow, and he will get that out to everybody here, and we can talk about what's next. Okay.
One of the things that the board has asked for is a tour. So
Okay.
we would love to have you schedule something on which as many members of the board as can attend to come down and see behind the curtain.
I'd love
What's
it.
the rest of what we have in the Kitsap Conference Center? And they can also take a good look at what is there
Absolutely.
and think about what could be there.
Absolutely. That would be wonderful. Let me know what time works for you, and we'll absolutely arrange for that.
Okay?
Thank you.
Wait a minute. We've asked for this when did you ask for it, Darren?
Oh, I haven't talked to Lori about it yet.
5 months ago or so.
Yeah, but I didn't do anything.
And what I see here is, well, get back to me. Well, when are we gonna do it? That's my question now, to you two.
Tomorrow.
When are we gonna do it?
I'm ready tomorrow. You tell me when you're ready. We'll be ready tomorrow.
Okay? When would you like to go down there?
Can I look at my calendar on this?
Of course.
Okay?
That means I gotta look at mine too.
No, and I appreciate that sense of urgency, because that's one of our words, sense of urgency.
I actually could do it tomorrow. I could do it Friday.
Friday would be a good day,
But what is
too.
everybody else's schedules like? Because it would be nice to have as many of us as possible.
What time Friday?
When are you back?
No, Friday. Not
So
Friday.
the following week?
Yeah, I cannot do tomorrow or Friday.
Okay.
I can send out some available dates. Why don't I do that tonight? I'll send out to Michael what I can basically accommodate, and we'll just kind of do like a doodle.
Yeah.
Get online, everybody can put in their time that they need, and we'll get this on, because I absolutely appreciate your sense of urgency, and I agree.
Well, It's just been,
Agreed.
everybody's saying, well, we'll do it. Well, when?
I will get a doodle out and we'll put some dates out and work everybody's calendars together. All right. Doodle's one of those, like, you can coalesce your schedule so everybody knows, like, I'm not doodling, so anyway. All right, go.
Thank you,
All right.
Lori.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for the time. Thanks, everybody, for coming for me.
The South Kitsap Event Center. Let's have a big hand for you.
So this mic is live?
It doesn't project. It's only for video purpose.
Just for video?
You
Okay.
can just hold it.
Yeah, for
You
you.
can just hold it kind of here.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you, members of the board of the Kitsap Public Facilities District. Mike said this is the first step. Seems like we started last year a little bit sooner, but that was a dry run. That was a dry run. And I want to say, I'm going to introduce my team in a moment with me, but I began attending these Public Facilities Districts meetings in December. I haven't missed one yet. And there was even one time, I think I was the only person out here. It was very lonely. And I decided I want to invite a bunch of friends to be here tonight with me. So that's why we're all here tonight. My name is Steve Seago, and I'm going to talk about the South Kitsap Community Event Center. And I want to start by saying, we'll talk a little bit later about the components and the pieces of all this, but one of the meetings I attended, I heard the board talking among themselves, and one of the board members said, it's really South Kitsap's turn. They deserve a project, and they should have something now. It's their turn. They've never had a project. We funded the Kitsap Conference Center in Bremerton and the Central Kitsap, the Kitsap at the Fairgrounds Event Center, I guess that's called there?
Yes.
Conference Center at Bremerton, and then the North Kitsap project. And another board member said, well, what if they don't have a good project? I mean, why would we fund a project that doesn't really meet the objectives, the criteria, the mission of the taxpayers who fund the Kitsap Public Facilities District? And I was nodding my head, agreeing, absolutely correct. But tonight, I think what I want to share with the board is that I think we meet, if not exceed, what you're looking for in a project. That this organization was created, established first by the state of Washington, and then in 2000 by the county commissioners to provide exactly what you saw Lori talking about earlier, which was the first project. And now that we have some additional funds maybe available to move forward, why this project is in fact what you should be looking for in terms of your mission statement for this organization. So with that, I'm going to introduce, if you would, I guess I got it here? Okay. Let's make sure I got this right. All right, oops, there you go. Okay. I can chew gum too. So, again, I'm Steve Seago. I'm with Sound West Group, and I'm also a business owner in Port Orchard and an original citizen of the community. And along with my wife, Corrine, who's been a part of all the things we've been working on for a while in the community, we have a passion for Port Orchard and South Kitsap, and we're not going to stop working until we see progress made, and we think we're seeing it happen now. And with that said, we have some members of the presentation team tonight who also share that passion and that vision. Wes Larson with Sound West Group here. Wes. And I'll let Wes speak in a little bit, and he'll talk about our relationship and what we have planned. Jack Powell, who's a partner also in SWG and the Director of Development for our firm, Jack. And Kathleen Wilson from the Kitsap Regional Library, and she'll talk a little bit about our relationship and what we're working on. And Larry Stokes, who's a commissioner with the Port of Bremerton. So thank you all for joining me tonight. So this is what we're going to talk about. This is the outline of the presentation tonight. And as Mike, for those of you who are here and for the first time trying to understand what we're up to, the idea of a community event center is a great thing, but there's a lot of connective tissue between a good project and why they should fund the project based upon their obligation to serve their mission. And that means there's got to be economic development as part of that. And we'll talk about that in detail later. But this is why we're going through this process in detail, is to explain that and provide substantial information about why we think we can make that happen in this project. So, Community Event Center. You know, the evolution of this idea came from a number of people who believed that we needed to have something in downtown Port Orchard and South Kitsap that served a substantial need. One of the evaluation criteria on your form is, what's the need? What are you doing? Well, we're filling a very important need. In fact, there's been, Corinne, I don't know how many committees and meetings over the last decades about how do we create a central gathering place, a town square, a location where the entire community can meet for a number of reasons, but also contributes to the economic opportunity and growth of our community. That's the first thing. It's clear that that's something we're missing. We own a restaurant in what we call a Port Orchard Public Market, which is, if you haven't been there, don't get your hopes up. It's not a giant community center, and we struggle to provide a venue for a lot of things that we try to do in our community, and we can't do it. So the city and the community, for a lot of reasons, the stars are aligned, have made the effort to put together what's necessary in infrastructure and in terms of code and zoning, and we'll talk later about a few other tools that the city has organized and what we've been working on to support that. And clearly, to make the idea of a redeveloped Port Orchard come alive, a community event center was not just a good idea, it was a necessity. And that's why we're here. So we started working more than a year ago. In fact, Steve and I were talking a year ago, October, some of us started putting some rubber on the road and coming up with some ideas about redevelopment. And we knew we had to make this happen, and we started looking for paths and opportunities, and this is where we ended up. And we're going to talk about why this makes sense tonight. So with that, I'm going to show you where it is, and everybody here knows, but I think the board members probably do as well. There's Port Orchard. There's the location within the city of Port Orchard on the waterfront, and that's kind of where it is. If you look full back there, that's the location of the property just between the Port of Bremerton's boat launch parking and includes the port's property. We'll talk about that in a moment, and another private property, and Kitsap Bank is just to the north there. So there's two components of that location. There's a piece of property that the Port of Bremerton owns. They have currently a tenant there that sells boats. It says yacht sales. I never bought a yacht, so I don't know, but it's boat sales to me, and I think they do pretty well. I don't know. And then the separate parcel is where a 7-Eleven is located, and it's owned by the Vlist family, and all my friends here from Port Orchard know who that is. And the Vlists have been multi-generational partners and members of our community. They own a car dealership. They are involved in nonprofit support, the Naval Museum, the Turner Joy project. Dick was involved in that for a while. But I've known the boys since I was younger, that they're part of that family. And they are really, truly an important part of this process, because they own the property that we've asked them to sell to us for this project. And I don't know, Van was going to come. Is Van here tonight? I don't see Van. I'll speak on behalf of what we talked about, just so you know the status of the property. We're currently in a position where we've got an appraisal. We're trying to ascertain the value based upon some additional revenues from the existing leases they have. But the two things that the Bliss family always says to me about this project is, one, we couldn't be more excited. What a great thing for Port Orchard to have this happen and to have the subsequent development that we've always dreamt of happening in downtown Port Orchard happen. We're on board. We're excited, and we want to do whatever makes sense. But number two, this is our family estate. We got to make sure we're compensated adequately, appropriately, and that's what we're working to do right now, and I think we're making progress there. So our public partners, and I'm going to introduce Larry Stokes, Commissioner Stokes, in a moment to just share any comments he has. We approached the Port of Bremerton as a public partner for this process, and you all know why, and you understand for those of you here tonight, we as a private entity can't take public money from the PFD. We need to work with a public partner, a city, a county, a public entity, and there were some choices there, and I'll talk about those later. But the Port of Bremerton has agreed to serve as our public partner on this process, and recently had another visit just to make sure everybody understood it's official and that they are our public partner. And with that, I'll introduce Commissioner Stokes, and Larry, if you want to say a few words.
Sure. Real mic, huh? You know, I'm really excited about this from the standpoint, you know, I came to Kitsap County in 1971 from Vietnam and retired from the Navy and decided I was never going to leave here. And I've been in Port Orchard since November, or the 7th of 1974, and I dearly love the town. And this community really needs something on the south end. But what I want to let everybody understand is the Port of Bremerton is behind this 100%. My fellow commissioners, both Kerry Bozeman and Axel Stracklejohn is here, along with our CEO, Jim Rockland, and we are here to support the project. We're here to see it to its end. When we come in this morning, I spoke to Kerry Bozeman and what have you, and he says, you know, we got to make a commitment, but we're here not just for today, we're here to see it to the end, and what have you. So, you know, I go back to when I first came here, and I remember going into Port Orchard and going to Myrie's and having a $25 Twilight, I think, champagne dinner. I remember Blanchard's, I remember the Western shop there and Cozy Toes and so on and so forth. And we need help in Port Orchard from, it's kind of like growing a lawn. If we get something that starts there, it's like seed. You get ready to grow a lawn. If you start, it'll start growing and growing and going bigger and bigger and bigger. And we need that seed project in Port Orchard. So I just want you to know that we're here to stand behind it 100%.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate that. The other public partner, and you'll learn more about kind of how the dance is done in terms of public partners and stakeholders and tenants and all. But we've been working, when we first started the idea of the first piece of the project with the Kitsap Regional Library, thought we had a great space for them. Now, they're on the waterfront already, so they have pretty high expectations, but they have a pretty special place in downtown Port Orchard, and they're very interested in being part of this project as a tenant, and we'll talk later about some operations opportunities as well. But I wanted to introduce tonight Kathleen Wilson, who is not only the regional manager for that branch in Port Orchard, and probably all of you know her. She does so much in our community, and she is very much a part of our community from the standpoint of our Downtown Business Association, community events, everything we do downtown for the merchants and the community. So with that, Kathleen, I'd like you to say a few words if you have some thoughts.
Thank you. Well, one of the 4 identified service priorities for the Kitsap Regional Library is economic development. So we're really excited about this project. The others are STEM and learning, early learning, and civic engagement. And something about this project that's so exciting is how it has engaged so many in our community already. We're seeing just such excitement around this project. The library currently serves an average of 14,000 users a month, so we're very busy. We love being right on the waterfront, right downtown. We're right in the middle of, and we're a large contributor to lots of the downtown activities and events. The downtown is a busy, bustling waterfront. Right now, the library, in the summertime, we have our Waterfront Wednesday activities, which draw up to 600 children and families, and we partner with the port on those, and we have those over in the Waterfront Park gazebo, and we're using their Marina Park Pavilion. So library staff are really involved right now with lots of entities, the Chamber of Commerce, the Bay Street Association, partnering with the South Kitsap School District, and we're partnering with WorkSource to bring job coaching appointments to our community once a month. So we're really filling the needs of our community. As those needs change, the library is changing too. And we're excited about how we can help support the economic development in Port Orchard. This project will allow a beautiful launching pad to serve South Kitsap well into the foreseeable future. Our current building was built in the 1960s as a post office. You probably remember when it was the post office. We had the Dutch door that they used to sell the stamps out of until a few years ago when we remodeled it. And it's served our community very well. But we are ready for a new building. We are ready to serve our community, our growing community. We held over 350 programs at the Port Orchard Library last year. We created over 3,000 library cards last year, that is well over any other library in the system. And that's because we are a dynamic, growing community with lots of young families moving in, and we want to continue to be a part of that and to change and serve our community into the next century.
Thank you, Kathleen. So our next partnership, I'm going to introduce a couple of our partners. First, the principal in a company you might have seen if you get the Puget Sound Business Journal last week. We were on the cover. Well, Wes was on the cover, but our company and what we're doing in Bremerton and around the region, and how we've been kind of a really an industry leader in innovation in terms of investment and finding capital. Wes is going to tell you all about that. But with that, I'd like to introduce Wes Larson from Sound West Group.
Wow, what a great crowd. Unbelievable. I'm from Kitsap County.
Wes,
Am
you
I?
don't have to hold it
Is
so
it-
close.
You don't have
No, I
to
have to hold it
hold
so close, okay.
Hold it in
Okay,
your chest.
Thanks, yeah.
It doesn't
All right.
work. It doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Okay.
No.
Just wanted to recognize a few people here too before I start. Got some of our staff here. Jeremy Stitt, running the PowerPoint show. Marianne Weber back here. And of course my lovely wife Daphne, who is coming here to watch me. I don't know how many of these presentations were, but appreciate you standing loyally by and watching yet another one. But we're very proud and honored to be here tonight and to talk to you about the Port Orchard, or Imagine Port Orchard, which is, I think, a tremendously exciting public-private partnership for the redevelopment of the downtown Port Orchard area. I want to start out a little bit first and talk about SWG and who we are, and then I'll talk about a project of note that is within a 5-minute ferry ride of downtown Port Orchard. That's called Marina Square, which is on the waterfront of Bremerton. And then I want to talk about opportunity zones and why opportunity zones are such a powerful funding tool that will enable us to fund the Marina Square project, the Port Orchard project, and why the timing is so significant, why it's so important that we take advantage of that funding option and be able to engage with this project as soon as possible in 2019. So Sound West Group was formed in 2010. As I mentioned, I was from Kitsap County. I was born in Bremerton, grew up in Silverdale, graduated from CK High School, and I've watched this community grow over the years. Our goal, and Mike Brown, my partner, who couldn't be here tonight, our goal in founding Sound West Group was to be a local developer focused on projects that are in Kitsap County, in our backyard, literally. It's not to say that's the only thing we do. We also will look opportunistically to the other side of the Sound. We are now doing what will be the first multifamily passive house design building, 66 units a block from Key Arena, net zero energy efficient, really interesting building program there, but one we're going to start this spring. Kitsap County, though, we've been engaged in projects from Bainbridge to Silverdale, or Poulsbo to Silverdale, in Bremerton, of course, and now Port Orchard. Bainbridge Landing is a project that 114 units, and in total we have $300 million of stabilized value projects running from single-family housing to multifamily REI, General Dynamics warehouse and production facility, and now Bremerton Marina Square, Spyglass Hill, and the waterfront redevelopment Port Orchard, which we hope will be the next great project. But in each of our projects, we look for unique opportunities to form public-private partnerships. We look for that intersect between the public interest to get the public engaged, and that's what makes the difference between just another project and a great project. And we really take that, development of community, which is in our tagline. We really take that seriously. We believe it. For us as a private company, it makes sense. The goodwill that we grow in the community is something that comes back like karma. It helps you in future projects. And the public-private partnership, we demonstrate again throughout our projects. Bainbridge Landing, which again is coming online next month. We have developed or contributed a 1-acre parcel to the city of Bainbridge Island, which will be a public park. Downtown Poulsbo, Mayor Erickson, we're working very fervently with the city to develop, not to develop, but to build on the existing character and really emphasize some of the older buildings on Main Street, be able to bring those up, up to par with the existing Main Street and really capitalize and develop that historic integrity, take it to the next level. So we've got a vision there, working very actively with the city of Poulsbo. In Silverdale, we've got a couple of projects ongoing, one which will be adjacent to Clear Creek and near Buckland Hill, workforce housing, but again, attaching to a great amenity in Clear Creek Trail, and we intend to capitalize on that and really emphasize that connection. Bremerton Marina Square, it's called Marina Square because it is a public square. Through the middle of our project, which will include a 125-unit hotel as well as a 145-unit multifamily building, is a great amenity, a public square that will allow circulation of people through the square and down a grand staircase to the waterfront. And on the shoreline, we're going to have these, we'll have these probably grass-creek paved oval areas where we will have outdoor events. Could be picnics, it could be wine tastings or weddings in the summer, and opportunity to access the shoreline. So that involves very close work with the Port of Bremerton, the City of Bremerton, and our public partners. Moving on to Port Orchard and the project that presents itself there, we see a great opportunity to do a master plan community on the waterfront, and key to that, of course, is the Community Event Center. Community Event Center is something that will help engage the public, energize this project, and make it truly exceptional. But a master plan is basically being able to put a box around the downtown district of Port Orchard and be able to plan together with the city as to what goes on inside that box. The roads, the public infrastructure, community center, all those things that can happen, all the goals and objectives of the community and ourselves as a private partner, we can put on the table. So why is 2019 so key in terms of the timing? Well, as you saw, as the front page of the Puget Sound Business Journal, The Land of Oz, and references to the Wizard of Oz aside, the Land of Oz, or Opportunity Zone Funds, is a new recent law passed in 2018 that provides a very powerful tax incentive for capital investment into communities like Bremerton and Port Orchard, which are identified as economically challenged areas. And so the recognition of those areas and the ability for investors to invest and realize significant tax savings by investing in areas that really truly need it is something that we can capitalize on in Port Orchard, and we're doing so with Marina Square. Marina Square is a $129 million project. That's pretty ambitious for downtown Bremerton, but we're going to fund that with a $60 million equity raise. It's out on the street now, and that equity raise is the first project-specific economic opportunity zone fund in the country. And I got to tell you, I was in Las Vegas recently at a national securities conference, and opportunity zone funds were the hot topic. Well, they were a hot topic, but I can tell you, when we brought them out, and when we first brought out the Opportunity Zone Fund in March of last year, nobody had heard of it. And now everybody's talking about Opportunity Zone Funds. Well, the Opportunity Zone Fund, when it came, when we took it and developed it, got the first tax opinion by one of the leading tax councils in the country, and we took it to the securities conference in Las Vegas at the Area Hotel, and they had a breakout session on Opportunity Zone Funds. Well, they had to break it out into the grand ballroom because there were so many people in attendance. And on the stage, we had a general partner for Baker & McKenzie, which is the largest law firm in the world. We had Jenner & Block, one of the largest tax counsel in the world, the general partner. We had Griffin Realty Capital, which is an $11 billion real estate fund. And we had Southwest Realty Capital from Bremerton, Washington. And we carried the ball through that. And it's thanks to a lot of people in this room too. The county commissioners, the mayors, Mayor Wheeler brought it to my attention originally. We shepherded, it was an approval process. We had to take it through from the local level through to the state to get it approved and then submitted to the Department of Commerce for final approval. But we got that and we hit the ground running. So why 2019? Because very importantly, in a nutshell, if somebody invests into an Opportunity Zone Fund project, they can maximize their investment because they get a step up in basis in 2019 on capital invested that they otherwise won't get if they do it in 2020. So there's a big rush right now to find good projects, and our project in Bremerton, the project in Port Orchard, is going to be the center of attention for that. So why is an Opportunity Zone Fund so powerful? Well, what it does is it frees up capital gains that have been locked, in the case of the stock market, or any asset. It allows the investor to sell, say, his stock in Amazon. If he invested in it for $100,000, it's worth $200,000 today. He could sell, he could reinvest just that $100,000 gain and take the basis off the table into a real estate project in Bremerton, Washington. And he would defer he wouldn't have to pay his tax on the gain that he invested. Moreover, any growth or any gain on that investment, provided he owns it for 10 years, is never taxed. So it's an incredibly powerful tool. And what it does is it really equalizes the playing field. So when you have a project in Seattle, somebody's looking at and they're thinking of, well, why wouldn't I invest there instead of Bremerton? Well, because now they can look at a Bremerton project and they can say that, I don't have to pay the tax, so the rate of return is equalized. And so it makes a project that's a good project now a project that will have a national focus and attention, and it's a very powerful thing for us. So, the project in Port Orchard, we're working very closely with a very significant corporation, resident in Port Orchard, Kitsap Bank, and we are trying to work through the process of joint venturing for a master plan. That's early on, but the community center is at the focus of that, and it is key to the success of the project. 2019 is an important year in order to maximize the capital benefits of an Opportunity Zone Fund. And I think the project and the partners and the team, with Steve's leadership that he's put together for us, I submit we will do a very good job. We will take in honor and cherish your trust if you choose to invest in us, and we will leverage that. We'll create a great project, and we'll be able to establish something that's very special on the waterfront in Port Orchard, for generations to come. So, thank you very much for your time, and with that, I'll turn it back to Steve.
Thank you, guys. It's a lot to digest, but the bottom line is the window's open, the stars are aligned, this is our time. You all hear that story. But it's not just because it's our time in South Kitsap and Port Orchard. It's our time from a business perspective. It's our time from an investment perspective, and I think that sums it up really well, Wes. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my other colleague at Sound West, who's up here tonight with us, is Jack Howe. Jack's going to talk a little bit about this master plan. This is the first time the public's seen this. This is the reveal. Now, there's a lot more that goes into this, but we hired a company called GGLO to do some master plan work last year, and they did a great job of kind of working through footprint, shoreline restoration, all the challenges, infrastructure, to create kind of a massing footprint. And Jack will describe that a little bit. Jack, go ahead. And here's a laser pointer too, Jack, just there, right?
I don't like two hands, but
I'll go ahead and do that.
Can I just say a word first?
Sure.
Yeah, just by way of introducing Jack, he's our development director at Southwest, and Jack comes to us from a national development background, so he's worked for a number of the large developers nationally, and one of the projects that really is kind of relevant to this is the Hyatt Hotel, and it's in Renton, and that project on the waterfront that you would develop it for. So.
Yep, similar project that turned out pretty successful. So as the commissioner was talking about at the onset about using the Kitsap Conference Center as an example of a first domino to fall and everything that happened. This is almost a repeat of that. The event center would be the first part of this master plan community, and we have identified 11 parcels that we are in various stages of assembling to fulfill this master plan. And Steve talked a little bit about the list family. There's 10 other parcels that would make this up. So after the, or maybe even the same time as the community center project, we would do this first phase. And this would encompass this, it's about 5 parcels, and it would be one big subterranean parking garage for 260 cars. So, and that would be parking for the community center. And on top of that parking garage would be this open plaza, and similar to what Wes was just talking about at Marina Square, would be open public plaza with big steps, kind of like harbor steps in downtown Seattle, that would connect right to the waterfront. And then on top of that podium would be 50,000 square feet of commercial office space, and another 13,000 of retail and other commercial space. And what we'd like to have is an anchor tenant. Somebody like Kitsap Bank would be ideal, that would make this thing work. And then we'd have the mixed use component, which would be roughly 90 units of apartments. That's similar to the Spyglass Hill apartments in Bremerton. That it's kind of the first Class A multifamily project in Bremerton that was a showcase that showed that it was possible to build in Bremerton and have it be successful. We leased up the 85 apartments in Spyglass Hill in 80 days. So we'd like to prove that this is viable in Port Orchard, just like we did in Bremerton. Also, phase 2 and phase 3 would be the additional mixed-use multifamily, but then also each parcel, each project would fund a part of the waterfront restoration and enhancements.
Thanks, Jack. Thank you. And I'm gonna, just for your edification about this process, there are, these components. The community event center is essentially the hub. That's where it all starts. If this can happen, this happens, and then this happens. But notice especially important that we're creating open space. We're returning the shoreline to the community. What you see over here is a beach. This is a daylighted stream right here. There's a kayak launch out here, a fishing pier. The idea was, and as somebody who is from Port Orchard and returned after 35 years, and I was very sentimentally joyful that nothing had changed. And then after about 6 months, I was pretty disappointed that nothing had changed. And the most important thing that always stood out to me is, why is this all parking? Why is the waterfront not activated? Why isn't it part of what we do in terms of our lifestyle, retail, recreation, restaurants, community event center? So the idea was to build around that concept. And what you will notice from Port Orchard and South Kitsap is the parking really is almost invisible or not there. As Jack mentioned, there's 260 buried parking stalls over here in 3 levels, and I expected a cheer from you all, because that's one of the biggest issues in Port Orchard is parking. But it really is a part of the idea. And don't be concerned about all the trees. I keep getting comments from people saying, "Is Bay Street going away? Is no, that's just some architects got carried away and had too much green or something. That's not going to change." But the point is, you can start up here in Prospect Street. You can walk down. We call this a pedestrian pathway, like the harbor steps. You can keep walking, keep walking. There's no more bulkheads and fences. You can keep walking and walk right into the water. You take your shoes off first. You can walk right into the water from the top of Prospect Street. And there's public spaces, plaza down here, places for concerts, outdoor venues connected to the community event center. And we're going to talk more about the community event center now in terms of what that means in programming. So I'm going to go ahead and flash forward. So I mentioned the project team, and real quick I'm going to introduce some people. You've met SWG, GGL, and Heartland are in Seattle. They're not here. Riceburg is Miller. Steve, I want you to say a few words about this process and how you saw this project unfolding and its value.
Well, thank you, Steve. I guess we've been before you before, and we talked a little bit about the building itself and how the community event center might be designed for activation or even super activation, where we talked about the ability to host a very large event with several hundred people, a singular event, or the flexibility to hold a number of different kinds of meetings and smaller events all at the same time. And that's still a really huge goal of this. But it occurs to me, you know, we put some work in between last time and this time. And I think it's really about connections. And if you were to ask me, you know, from a design perspective, if you were going to do something like this in South Kitsap, where would you do it? And I think that if it's anywhere in South Kitsap, it needs to be in Port Orchard. And I think if it's anywhere in Port Orchard, it needs to be a really hugely visible location. And it needs to directly front onto Highway 166 or Bay Street. It also would benefit from having a waterfront trail connection. It would benefit from having access to boat launching. It would have a marina, its wonderful waterfront partner close by. It would be immediately connected to Kitsap Transit's fast ferries. It would be immediately adjacent to true single-family neighborhoods right up the street. And lastly, it would be surrounded by developable land so that it could cause other things to happen. So while we look forward to programming such a facility and getting into the details, I really don't think that there's a better location for something like this than the exact parcel of land that these gentlemen and ladies have put together and present to you tonight. So, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you. That's one of my companies that started. We started this investment project with SWG and Rice Ferguson Miller and BJC. I'll talk about them in a moment. And just decided that we needed to kickstart something, and that's how this all began about a year and a half ago, right? It was October. The next company is that's part of our. That's an economic impact report that's in the packages for the board tonight, and I'll refer a little bit about what that means in terms of the corroboration of data about the economic value of this project. Serotonin, that's where is serotonin? There they are, stand up. This is Josh and Sarah, serotonin. They make you happy, don't they? That's what they're supposed to do, serotonin. And Josh and Sarah have been, I'll explain a little bit more, they've been behind the community connection. That's who connected you all. They know how to do that, and they did a really good job of that. And we'll talk about how they reached out to you. I Heart Kitsap, that's Mike Barnett. Where's Mike? Is right here. And just so you know, you're going to see Mike's work. Josh and Sarah's work is all among you, but Mike's, we're going to look at it in a little bit. He did a great job of putting together a video for us. And he's done some other special work for us in Bremerton at the Quincy Square Project. And he's somebody that we love working with. He's very creative and smart and good at what he does. And then BJC Group, that's Robert Baglio back here. And Robert started with us, he's South Kitsap local. So Robert. Sarah and Josh are South Kitsap High School grads too, so it's all in the family. But Robert has a construction company, and the first phase was important from the city's perspective to have a discussion with somebody who's on the ground here. And Robert helped get this all going in terms of the first phase, and so we appreciate that very much. Community stakeholders. City of Port Orchard's here tonight. Kitsap County. When I say stakeholder, that doesn't mean somebody's writing us a check or is on board as a partner or a tenant even, but there are people who are vested in what we're trying to do. And we started building a stakeholder group a while back to start collecting that input. With the cities involved, the county, the Port Orchard Bay Street Association, which is our downtown business group, merchants group, South Kitsap Schools, rowing clubs. We're going to let Chuck talk a little bit about his plans tonight. The community theater, is Cindy here tonight? Yeah, Cindy Mitchell. We'll talk about the community theater and what they're up to and their interests. They can help us. The conference center. Kitsap Conference Center is a stakeholder. And we'll talk about that. Lori, and I've had a lot of conversations with Lori. What they do and did, and what we're trying to do, is one of those 1 + 1 = 3 projects where we can really help each other out, I think, and we'll talk about that. And then there's hundreds of, well, you all, and we'll talk about the volume of that and what that means in terms of what happened when we started this process and connected with our stakeholders.
Well, I didn't know you were going to bring all hundreds of them with you tonight.
There's more in the parking lot, and they're waiting to see the smoke in the chimney, so we'll see how that goes. So in any event, here's our programming ideas. And when we say, programming is, and Steve does a good job of this, is you don't just build a building and then say, what do we fill it with? what's your objective? What's your mission? What are you trying to do with that space? And how does it activate itself internally and externally as a part of the community in the waterfront? And you can see a whole list of things up there. When we started this, we realized we want to find out what everybody thinks we might want to do. We don't know, we don't have all the answers, but we don't want to regret in 5 years that we didn't think of a use that could be part of this. And I got to tell you, some of these may not work or fit, but we'll find someplace else as we continue to develop the community. But if you look at this list, the library, obviously, weddings. How many people would love to do a wedding on the waterfront? My wife and I got married on the waterfront in February. It was very cold, and we wish we could have been inside of a community event center and not, thank you, Larry, for the park down there, but it was a little chilly on the waterfront.
We have curtains.
The community the theater in town, we'll talk about how they could fit in and what we want to do there. Corinne's now getting besieged with high school reunion interest for our space that's too small for that. Senior living program activities, dance, yoga. In fact, we took dance classes at the Y in Gig Harbor. We could have done it in Port Orchard when we got married, you know. So those are the kind of programs, yacht club events. There's a lot of marina users who are looking for a place to connect and collect and be part of an event. Dinner theaters, rowing club, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Kayak rentals, marina-based events, all the connections you can see here, school mentoring activities, community awards events, etc. And if you look at this too, there's our service, you know, right now, I think it's Saturday night, we're going to the Rotary Crab Feed. Anybody else going to the Rotary Crab Feed Saturday night? Okay. So the South Kitsap, is it the South Kitsap Rotary? Port Orchard Rotary. I always get those mixed up. Sorry, Rob. Port Orchard Rotary, we have the Bay Street Bash the next week. Okay. The Port Orchard Rotary does their South Kitsap, or their Crab Feed fundraiser in Bremerton. And Lori gets their business, and that's great. But wouldn't it be great if we could have our community service clubs meet and do events and have ongoing galas and whatever in our own community? And that's part of what we're trying to do here. And then the regional events, and this is what these guys care about. They want to know, that's great, you guys get some good stuff in Port Orchard. How does that build regional connections, tourism, economic activity? Right now we have a lot of things happening in our town, but we need more amenities and more institutional support. We have this great, in fact, the port does the Chris Craft Rendezvous. What a great event. People come from all over the region in their beautiful Chris Craft boats. But they're kind of getting a little crabby. They kind of think we need to have more downtown for them to be able to connect with. The pirates came this year, 250 pirates. We had to put our women and children at, behind doors because they took over our town. But they were pretty civil, and they dared drink a little beer, and that was all. But we have all sorts of events happening that we could not just build on, but add new community events, festivals, trade shows. Right now, one of our downtown merchants, who's our most successful merchant, Josephine's Redeemed, you all know where that is? She has a trade show, part of this group here, she has a trade show at the Kitsap Conference Center. Or at the Kitsap Event Center in Silverdale. I always get these fairgrounds. But she wants to do something local, she wants to do more. The idea of connecting with the Bremerton or the Harbor, Kitsap Harborside, the Kitsap Conference Center, to take their larger events when Marina Square has a new hotel and there's more lodging available, we can do events that we can co-support. Port Orchard becomes a breakout session. There's a 10-minute parallel trip across to our waterfront. So those are our programming needs, and I'm sure you all have more ideas than that, but this is what a great start. This is what we can do with this community event center. So I was again, I'm always talking about what, you must think I'm stalking you because I always refer to what I heard the board say, but I heard a board member say once last year, that Port Orchard project, that South Kitsap project, it seems like a pretty good idea. I think I need to learn more, but it's a couple of people talking about that. Does South Kitsap really want this? Is this something that the community is looking for?
What do you say?
To get to that point, we knew that, and maybe we just take it for granted, right? But we know that. We talk about it all the time in a restaurant and people in the street and the Rotary and the Chamber. We know that. But we also knew we had to connect with you and the community to explain, to put some shape and form to this. And so this wonderful team, Serotonin, came up with Imagine Port Orchard. Let's ask our community what they imagine about what we could do downtown with a community event center. And they created a website. 3,270 page views. That's pretty big in 6-7 weeks. A Facebook page, more than 600 likes in 6 weeks. I do a lot of that stuff, and I'm telling you, Kareem, is that like gold star? Yeah.
For our little town.
We have petition signatures, you've all signed a lot of those, both written. In fact, why don't we grab, if you would, just pull off those. I'm gonna pull these off, we have copies, and just take these and give these to Mike, and say, Mike, you can't keep the clipboard, but here is a big sample of the, whoops, I'm rolling through, accident there. Here are those petitions, and there's electronic signatures as well. We have more than 500. So, let's see where they end up. There we are. Thanks, Jeremy, for saving me. Letters of support, they're in your package. We have dozens of community leaders, business owners, etc. A lot of you here tonight signed letters. We've had stakeholder meetings to start the process of including people in this discussion. So I make that point to you, the board, not to say we want to harass you with people to convince you that you should do it because we have people here, but we've taken the effort very seriously to find out how to connect with our community, to build a plan that isn't just our plan, it's our plan, right? And I think we've done that. So I'm going to let Jeremy start something up here. Jeremy is the speaker on. Yeah. This is the work of Mike Barnett and a bunch of others in this room.
With a big idea and lots of imagination, we could transform downtown Port Orchard and inspire our city to become a stronger community. We've imagined before, but now it's our time.
A community center in downtown Port Orchard will give us a new library, a central gathering place that we've never had before, and create a regional draw for businesses and other users. I'm Rob Putansu, Mayor of the City of Port Orchard. Well, what I imagine are business and living opportunities that activate our downtown. We have the pedestrian path, we have our water and mountain vistas. This project will result in a restoration of our shoreline, ultimately reclaiming public access to the beach and water. And I believe a community center will create jobs and business opportunity. Well, numerous projects have been funded by the Public Facilities District, and South Kitsap has yet to have a project. Simply, it's our time.
We really feel like it is time for Port Orchard to have a new library location. We love being on the downtown waterfront, but we are a really busy library. We service 15,000 people coming in our doors every month. The great thing about the Community Events Center location is that it will keep the library right downtown and right on the waterfront. So we'll continue to be a part of this vibrant downtown community. I'm Kathleen Wilson, branch manager of the Port Orchard location of Kitsap Regional Library. We imagine a new waterfront location for our Port Orchard Library, continuing to serve our community in the ways that we do, but adding to that, services will still, of course, include checking out books, but we can also maybe check out kayaks.
Port Orchard's special to Kitsap Bank because this is where we were founded over 110 years ago. This is our home. You know, our administrative headquarters right now are bifurcated in two different locations. We have a lot of employees based elsewhere, and we would love to bring everybody back to Port Orchard where we could work more efficiently together. We believe the South Kitsap Community Events Center is a great opportunity to serve as a linchpin for future growth in Port Orchard. We think it could really provide a beachfront, a beachhead, literally on the waterfront of Port Orchard, and could really spur economic activity. My name is Tony George. I'm President and Chief Operating Officer of Kitsap Bank. I imagine Port Orchard being a vibrant waterfront-based community with all kinds of activities for people to come and enjoy, active business and retail community, access to the water, access to the ferry system. I think it could be a really special place.
Let's envision a place that serves the greater good of Port Orchard, a place that can spur economic growth and strengthen our social ties. Together, let's make amazing things happen. How do you imagine Port Orchard?
It's our time, and we want to talk a little bit about the details that you care about. We'll try to get this done, I think, about 10 minutes is what we have left. So you see here, this is just a reference to the community support and outreach. And I want to show you how we, can you link up our website or our Facebook page? This is important because this is about what these people are telling us and telling you about the idea of the Community Event Center and how they responded to this. We asked them, Sarah and Josh, how do you imagine Port Orchard? And they got, how many responses did we get?
Over 150.
150 people with specific ideas that talked about what, I want my kids to move back, that there's no place for them to work in our community. I want them to live here and not have to go someplace else. I want to launch my kayak at a lunch break. So this was a great way of connecting to folks who are real, who would invest in this as parts of our, members of our community, as users, but also really are the ones that we're trying to serve. And I always remind our team, these are the people now we know that we're trying to build for. You know who we're really doing this for? People we don't even know. People who are in junior high and high school. I mean, I don't know a lot of those kids, but or haven't been born yet. This is a project that builds a future that we can envision that suits where we need to go, but it's for generations to come. And that's the input that I heard loud and clear from the kind of discussion that we got in this process. So I'm going to go back to the. Oh, sorry. So there's some criteria that the Public Facilities District requests, and it has to do with what are the community benefits, what are the economic benefits, and these are all prima facie to me. These are obvious. You could make that argument just because we know, factually, that we're going to get all these wonderful benefits of shoreline restoration, open space plazas, waterfront activation, downtown business connections, tourism, jobs, a facility that they could fund that could be used every day of the year. And I don't think you can say that, maybe for the fairgrounds, I don't know. But it's a pretty special idea that this is a place we can use all the time. Public parking, a big one, of course, a place to bring people and the family. Economic benefits are pretty clear, too. I mean, it's pretty obvious that if we can be a partner with a corporate partner who wants to build a corporate headquarters and develop this project downtown, we're going to create a lot of opportunity. It's pretty clear that's going to cost some money. And between us, it's about 100 million plus is the starting point for that project. So it starts opportunities on investment, like Wes discussed. It builds and increases revenues for the city to serve all the needs that we have. So there's more snowplows, right, Ralph? But there's a lot of things that, and more. We can also create jobs through this process and save jobs that might leave if we don't get something done downtown. So we hired a company called Econ Northwest. They're a very reputable regional firm. They have offices in Portland, Seattle. They do work for large Seattle businesses. They do work for regional companies in Kitsap and Gig Harbor and elsewhere. And we asked them to take all this data and put it into the hopper and come up with the economist's view of what this means. And the board members have the full report. I encourage you to read through it. I'm going to pull some high points out of it, though. They clearly make the case that if we build a community event center, these benefits start. It becomes a catalytic cornerstone to the future of our downtown. And it's a sustainable process that creates environmental, economic, and community goals that can be served by doing this. It generates additional economic activity from new events, and those are all the things we talked about that are part of the programming. We can support a complement to the Kitsap Conference Center. It attracts new visitors, new expenditures for local goods and services, and as a restaurant owner downtown, I could use a few more. But everybody downtown, the tide will rise for all of us and all the new businesses that will locate. And it creates a ripple effect throughout the local Conference state economy. So the CEC funding equals downtown master plan. If we can get this funded, and this is a piece of it, this isn't all of it, then we can build a master plan that supports potentially corporate headquarters, housing, 52,000 square feet of additional office space, parking for 470 vehicles downtown. That's a lot of parking stalls. Shoreline access, traffic calming and walkability for the street and the waterfront. Creates new jobs. One of the things, and this we just addressed this earlier about how many jobs, Kitsap Bank is looking to find a location for a future, and I'm not going to speak on their behalf, and I think I'll let Tony say a few words, but they're looking, they have to find a solution, and if we could convince them that this is the solution, there would be 200 jobs downtown, and a big chunk of those people make $80,000 to $100,000 a year in that range. They're the kind of jobs that are careers, a place our kids can find a place to work and live in the community and not have to go someplace else to find a career. And we have careers, we have businesses, but what a great addition to that. So there's some other numbers in there, and I won't go through all of them, but what I think is really interesting, talk about the tourism accommodation stays, how we can build a lodging tax revenue source by adding more stays, and frankly, we need a hotel, another hotel in Port Orchard. We don't have If we do this, we're going to need another place for people to stay in downtown Port Orchard, and we're working on that. According to these guys, for every $1 million in expenditure for construction, 5 to 7 jobs are created. We're going to do $100 million on this project. That's 500 to 700 new jobs. In that field, they pay, on average, what was it, $54,000 a year, I think it was the number? 58? Yeah. So that's a big chunk of payroll every year that we could add for the phases that was going to take 5 to 7 years to build this project out. And I'm going to let Jack talk a little bit about this. This is just the early, you saw this earlier slide, but this speaks to, and Jack, I can point these out for you if you want to come up here. This just speaks to the pieces that we're talking about, just to give you an idea of the multifamily and the other pieces of the project.
Sure, so this is mainly just a kind of a matrix, a chart of the various components, but summarizing the square feet of commercial, residential, and office, and then also, you know, how many parking stalls and various components. But again, the community center would be the first domino, and then the parking garage with the 2 towers on top. And I say towers, would be 4 to 5 stories of commercial and residential. And you know, halfway through that construction process, we'd probably go over to, you know, W3A and start that mixed-use project, and then W2. So, you know, after, you know, like Steve said, you know, it's in the five-year range, but with the opportunity zone funding and expenditures, we would start spending money, you know, day one on architecture, engineering, survey, civil, design, and environmental, on and on. And so the economic impact would be immediate and would last, you know, 5 to 7 years thereafter.
Thanks, Jack. And you know, I'm going to kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jack or Wes, on this, but our plans right now, we've done a lot of research. We spent some money to get this put together, the master plan and the original design work. But our plan is, if we see some smoke in the chimney, if there's some feedback that we can start this process for the public facilities district's, you know, support for the community event center, we'll move by June to have, our objective is to have a development agreement with the city of Port Orchard. That's our objective. So we can start planning by a year from now, breaking ground on phase 1. Now, the community event center may not be started at the same time, depending upon additional funding that we're working on. We'll talk about that. But that's the timing of this. This is now. This is not 5 years from now. This is a year from now. If we see some progress, and again, it's about a bunch of pieces falling together. So this is the funding sources. How do we do this? Well, the project's 18 to 20 million. Well, that's a couple of million. It's a big range. We don't know for sure, because we haven't done the next phase of final granular design work. We've got a lot more work to do on the programming side. We're pretty sure that's where it is with all the land and the shoreline stuff, but it's probably about there. And we're asking the Public Facilities District for 12 to 13 of that to fund this community event center, get us going to the rest of the sources. Conservatively, we think there's at least another $7 million there, and I'll tell you why that is. There's federal and state grants and sources, and I'll explain those. Local, the city of Port Orchard, we're going to ask them for some funding. If we can convince the city council that maybe if they sell the library building, maybe we can put some of that into the. There's no promise. All this is speculative. I'm not warranting any any relationship at this time, but this is what we're working on. We're going to ask Kitsap County for some support through their LTAC as well. I've been working. Karina and I serve on the foundation board for the Roxy Bremerton. And we've spent a lot of time writing grants and raising money, and it's going pretty well. But we've learned who in this community really gets into projects like revitalization and redevelopment of our community. So we know where some of those are. Private support is people who we've already had conversations with benefactors who are hopefully interested in writing checks for some substantial amounts of the investment in this project. I've been meeting with Garrett Kilmer, representing Kilmer staff for quite a while. They have some ideas, and the first one they're working on is this USDA grant. That's a federal grant with a local connection. REPI is something I'm working on, and I won't go into that a lot, but there's a Navy source I've been working on for shoreline. What it would do is if we complete this, and we'll know by June, the funds that we can get from this, and it's a large amount of funding for the whole county, we could use that to actually monetize the restoration of the waterfront and actually use that as a cash flow source to fund some of this by creating mitigation credit value. Department of Commerce programs, again, I don't have time to go through all of those. I think the ALEA project, the funding source at the state, the RCO grants, makes a lot of sense in terms of how and why they fund shoreline and other kinds of activation with the community by diminishing impacts. In the Washington capital budget, as soon as the session's over, we have some meetings scheduled, the mayor's helping with that, to push forward on that. So, operations, who's gonna run it, who's gonna own it? Well, I know the menu, I don't know all the courses yet, but I know that we have a pretty good idea of how this could come together. And I know there could be more than one operator, depending upon the uses and how they're designed in the building. I know that we will probably try to put together a not-for-profit component of this to raise grant funding that could, for example, be the theater operator, the community events theater, which is also a revenue source from the community that uses that asset, that venue for events. So there's a lot of pieces to that. We've had conversations with a lot of people on that. We don't, at this time, I think that's a conversation for June and July and the future if we move on down the road. And the operations revenues come from a number of sources, the LTAC sources, but one thing we agreed to as a project team is we're going to work to fund 5 years of operations on the front side, so that there's a guarantee that should things go off the track for any reason, partly or there's funds available, whoever we operate this with, so they aren't in a position where they're holding the bag. So that's the summary. You know, I'll tell you that this is a project that if we fund this first phase, the community event center, we're going to transform a community that is starving for good news. It's going to, and it's because there's public-private partners. Because, as I hear over and over, the stars are aligned. It's time for somebody to take advantage of that, and in Port Orchard we have the stars aligned. There's economic benefits that go with this, as we talked about. There's community benefits that are part of this. This is the project, I think, that really fits what you're up to in terms of your mission as a Public Facilities District Board. And with that, I know we're about out of time, I'm guessing. Mike, is that about right?
You're about right.
Okay. Try to fit it all in tonight for you. But I know there's some people who are going to want to talk. How much time do I have left before we go to public comments and your questions and all that?
Well, it's
questions.
What the Q&A
Yeah.
is.
Well, I'm gonna ask.
Have questions.
I've got about 2 minutes of people I want to talk who are part of our project, but they're people who are special to the discussion. I don't want to put them off until you could hear before you ask questions. So I'll start with Tony George, who you all saw his movie star face up there on the video. And Tony is, as you know, the COO at Kitsap Bank.
Thanks, Steve. So Kitsap Bank's very interested in this project. Obviously, we're the adjacent property. We own most of the property, or a good chunk of the property that's involved in this master plan. We are currently in a 50-year-old building, half on leased land from DNR. We're busting at the seams, both in our Bremerton location and in our Port Orchard location. And banking's changing as we grow. There's a lot more jobs that are based inside our headquarters and not a lot less in the branch side. And so we need room to grow. For most of you that know Kitsap Bank, we've been in Port Orchard for 110 years, within a block of where we're at now. And we're very patient. We're owned by a family that's been owned for almost the last 100 years. We do things for the long term. We are, we've been in this situation for several years now, looking for opportunities, but we've been hesitant to develop anything in Port Orchard because we didn't want to be the only thing going on. And as banking becomes more competitive and we need to attract talent, it's getting harder and harder to attract talent in a 50-year-old building that's dated, and how much more attractive it would be to be near the waterfront with a library that's checking out kayaks at lunchtime to attract the talent, because it's harder. We're, you know, when I started Kitsap Bank, we had over 100 banks in the state. We're down to 40. We're going to be one of the ones that survive, and we've done some things internally to ensure that. But where we're located is really key, because we got to have the talent to keep us going forward. And so the Community Event Center is very, very interesting to us, and is really, I think, a key. Like I said in the video, it's the linchpin to make all this work. And so that's my comments.
Thank you. Thank you. No, Carrie's a commissioner. Come on up, Carrie, take the mic.
I'm people here, right?
Well, here's the thing. They want you want to be able to. Yeah, here you can take it here. But Carrie did something similar in Bremerton a few years ago.
Yeah, I'm not. Thank you. I'm not speaking as a port commissioner tonight, although we're all supportive of this project. But going through this process tonight reminds me of 20 years ago when I was the mayor of Bremerton, and we came, and Mr. Smith was on the board 20 years ago. You've been around a long time. And we asked him for money just like this for the conference center. We thought that would be the key to really energizing our downtown waterfront. And we were awarded $7 or $8 million. The city built the parking garage with revenue bonds. Then we found a developer, like you've heard tonight. It was a company called Opus. And Opus brought in a hotel next to the conference center. They brought Anthony's into the group. They brought our first Starbucks in. And then the whole thing started to take off. So we experienced exactly what you're talking about here tonight. The conference center as a civic center, a place where people gather, was the key to us being able to attract capital. And we attracted a lot more than 100 million. I mean, the numbers are staggering, actually. I mean, there were 200 or 300 million. But it was all set off by this organization having faith in downtown that we could get this done. And with the other thing, I'm sitting here, reminds me exactly, we wanted to keep Kitsap Bank, Kitsap Credit Union in Bremerton. And about that time, they were thinking about moving out of town. And we convinced them that if we went ahead and developed, then they said, okay, then we'll build our headquarters in downtown Bremerton, and they did. So I'm sitting there tonight, it's like deja vu all over again. So, great presentation.
Thanks, Gary. Thank you. Any questions, if that's okay? Rob, if you come up and say a few words.
You know, Mr. Walton and Carrie, you both, hit the nail on the head. We have an opportunity to plant a seed, and I think this project is just that. We have an opportunity to create a project that will be transformational to downtown Port Orchard and South Kitsap. When I was out doorbelling 4 years ago, and I probably hit a few of these doors, time and time again I heard, what are we going to do with downtown Port Orchard? How are we going to kickstart downtown? Well, right now you have an administration and my staff and a city council that we're all committed to making that happen. We've amended our code. We competed for the opportunity to get some designation, and we have incentives that can make this reality. We have a strong economy. We have market demand for housing. We have a corporate partner that's willing to bring jobs to our community. We have a reputable developer that can make these concepts real. The South Kitsap Community Center project is the catalyst we need to get Kitsap Bank to commit to building their corporate campus in downtown Port Orchard. If we don't act, we run the risk of not only losing those 150 jobs that they could bring, but also losing the 50 jobs that are already there, and that we just can't allow that to happen. These are white-collar jobs raising as you saw, $80,000 to $100,000 a year range. And those are vital to our local economy. We all know economies have cycles. Elected officials come and go. I believe what we see here today is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and we simply can't let it pass. And please look long and hard at this information before you. I know I have. And I think this community center will provide an exceptional return on the PFD's investment. This project is the beginning of a transformational revitalization in downtown on Port Orchard. As I said before, it's simply our time.
With that, I'm going to defer to you for questions, comments.
Now it's our time.
Do you have?
We're already past 7 o'clock. We've asked the other project to be here at 7 o'clock. I'm thinking, as a board, let's get our questions in, and then I want the public to be able to share what you want to say, but we have a schedule tonight as well. So maybe we'll do these questions, we'll try and do them as quickly as possible, and then give opportunity for the community, and we'll limit it to a full time. I'd like to give 3 minutes to each person, but maybe we could hold it to 20 minutes total for community input. So decide amongst yourselves, the 7 people you want to represent, or if there's more, we'll try and figure it out, but we're also trying to accommodate another group tonight.
Mr. Chairman, anticipating exactly this issue.
Yeah.
So what I've asked folks to do is, if they've already heard it said, don't say it again. And I've actually asked some people I know who have specific messages that they might want to go on the front of the line.
Excellent.
And so there's a few of those, and so I think we're exactly what you're looking for in terms of time.
Okay. Board, questions that we have for Steve or for the group?
I see the PFD being asked to write a big check. Who else is committed to writing a check?
We haven't asked anybody specifically.
I see
Yeah.
$5 million in grants that
Yeah.
maybe you'll get, maybe you won't. $2 million in contributions that maybe you'll get, maybe you won't. And I don't see anybody coughing up money.
And nobody will until you do. That's to be honest with you. Until you're on the table and you're committed to some level, I would never be able to have that conversation realistically for a $2 million or $1 million grant for a $20 million project. It would be a little bit wasteful of the time.
Well, like the example that Kerry gave when we did the conference center, we came up with $7 million. City of Bremerton sold revenue bonds. Is there any discussion like that with the city of Port Orchard? Or?
Not with the city of Port Orchard, but with some other sources that are real. And again, if in fact there's traction, then we can have more specific discussions, but it's just not going to happen until there's some certainty that there's a bigger center.
Okay, thank you.
For the board, for our questions, let's pass this around so that it gets on the video as well.
Aaron? Okay, I'll try to be quick. In one, we were talking about how it's going to coordinate with the existing Bremerton Conference Center, and I was trying to get an idea of the square footages for events. So this one, I think, said 24,000 for the building versus...
So it's anywhere from 24 to 30,000. We haven't finished the final design, but Steve, why don't you describe kind of the activation and how the multiple rooms and the larger room can be used?
Commissioner, the original program was for about 24,000 feet, 2.5 levels, focusing on 2 at this point. So I think you could assume 10 to 12,000 square foot minimum. We were imagining that there would be event spaces on both levels, a larger collection on either one or the other, and library balancing out the second. So we need to get about 2/3 of the space interconnected either on one level or easily to another, and also to the outside, in order to host a large event. And I think that's really key for this community. We've heard a couple times tonight that being able to get together on a large scale is really important. So.
Can I just run through my list?
Yeah.
I know you talked about the concept of a hotel. Is that part of the master plan, or is that further outside?
It's not. It wasn't originally. It's not now. But I never excluded any idea if it's a good one from being visited. However, there are other properties that we've been looking at that might make more sense within proximity to downtown, that might make a better fit for a waterfront hotel that would serve the conference center.
And did I understand the current library location's owned by the city?
Correct.
So, but right now, there's no money coming from the city of Port Orchard, but.
There's not, but we're gonna plead with them that if we do this, that they sell that property, that the proceeds would go to this project. No deal or arrangement's been made, but we're gonna ask for that.
You know, from the city side too, even if we weren't directly investing in this, we have millions of dollars of infrastructure that we're going to be contributing to the master plan. You know, from sewer and water, you know, there isn't an insignificant amount of investment from the city. That's for sure.
And can I just add to that? There's a piece that we built into our design work. The city has funding for a new sewer lift station and additional stormwater storage that's going to help solve a lot of the problems on the waterfront. That's being integrated into the project, and we're working with their engineer and designers with ours to make that happen.
Related to that, what is the square footage of the current library?
About 8,000.
And the design would give you about the same, or you would go bigger, or?
It's about.
It could be. Steve, go ahead. Yeah.
I think initially about the same, but we also realize that here we have the opportunity to combine the library with all of these other meeting spaces, what the library calls program spaces. So ultimately much more flexible and able to do many more things.
I think you answered my other ones. Thank you.
Steve, I have a couple of questions. First, I lived in Port Orchard since 1961, and I think this is a great project, and I really hope we're successful. As a member of this board, I have a responsibility to the taxpayers, and I have a little difficulty with this, so maybe you can help me. You're asking us to give a major portion of the funds that we're going to be having to spend. Our bonding council estimates probably around 15 to 20 million that we might have in the way of money if we issue bonds all at once. So you're asking us to fund out of that, which would limit the amount of funds we would have for other projects that are on the table. So I have a little problem with that.
May I respond to that?
Pardon me?
May I respond to that?
I don't know if he's finished.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was a I thought you wanted me to explain.
No,
okay.
no, let me finish.
Setting it up.
And then you
Setting
can
it up. Okay.
comment. And I understand the issue. Trust me, it's time for Port Orchard and South Kitsap to get a project funded. I totally am committed to that. But you're asking us to commit funds to a project that you don't know who's going to build the facility, you don't know who's going to operate it, you can't tell us specifically what kind of money is available to be with the project. There is a big difference between this project and Bremerton, the Conference Center. The Bremerton Conference Center had the total financial commitment of the city behind it, and they were going to operate it and build it. So there's a little bit difference there. So I'm, again, as a person on this board with a responsibility to shepherd tax dollars properly, I have a little problem with how this can be agreed upon for the funds that you're asking, with a lot of major questions yet to be answered.
Can I respond to that now?
Sure.
Okay. Well, first of all, I remember meeting you in 1962. You'd been here for about a year then. I was 4 years before that. I showed up. I was born. So, and your son, Monty, was a good friend of mine, and knew your family really well. And I remember how much you were involved in the community bill, and I thank you for your lifelong service to not just South Kitsap, but to Kitsap County and the region when you served on the economic development group for the whole region. So I know you understand this process. But let me make a couple points. And first is, I said I attended every meeting you've had since December. I've heard your discussions about evaluation processes. I've heard comments from members of the board multiple times about making an investment in a truly transformational project that has, the idea was to have enough massing of capital to actually make a difference, not just to spread it around with bits and pieces of that. We've given you a big mountain, you're right. I heard 18 to 20 when you were talking about bonding capacity. That's the number that came out of that meeting. And we are asking for a big amount of money, but here's what we're asking you to do. Not tonight to say, well, unless you brought your checkbook, we'll take it. But I don't expect tonight you're going to vote and give us any money. But I understand the process, and working with you all and working with Mr. Walton here, that this is the beginning of a discussion. That if you see credibility in the partners, and the players, and the people involved in this project, and you see if in fact this is a project that can be successfully built, constructed, and do what we say it's going to do, then you can't deny the fact that that is exactly what you would like to do. Your question is, but can you get there? My answer is, I think that's the next discussion. And until you say, this is a great project, it makes sense, and it's exactly what we should be funding, and we want to take that step to talk to you about that, if that happens, we'll be here with bells on with specific answers to those questions. But we can't come up with those answers until we know that we have an opportunity to push this project further down the road. So, from my understanding, the process that you have concerns about isn't the one that I understand you're pursuing with the consideration of 6th and a 7th original project for evaluation. Does that make sense? That's what I understand. Okay.
All right, let's bring the comments from the board to a close and open with the community comments. It's now 7:17. Let's try and hold it to that 20 minutes so that we are done before 7:40.
Where's the sign-up sheet? Mr. Walton here.
I have the sign-up sheet.
Do you want me to call them out since I know who's talked and who hasn't?
Yeah.
So,
I checked the ones
okay.
that talked.
So Ryan Hayter, are you in the room? Ryan Hayter. Come on down. Ryan.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I'm Ryan Hayter. I live in Port Orchard. I run a public relations and marketing firm. My wife owns a small cafe adjacent to what this project will be. I was going to be in Port Orchard for about 2 years when I initially moved here. Didn't have an intent to stay. We're going to give it a try. Home prices were cheaper than Seattle, so let's move out here. I've been here 18 years now, and I moved here because of potential, and that's something that you're going to hear in every conversation circulating around town is potential of Port Orchard. But I stayed for the people. And there's so much chatter going on and excitement about this, I decided to start a social group called Port Orchard Think and Drink, where we just go out, it's totally a casual, fun conversation to get people to come out and just talk about what they like about Port Orchard. I expected to have maybe 4 of my friends showed up. I've had 2 of these, and we've had more than 50 people show up, who are mostly strangers to me I hadn't met before. And just we're having brilliant conversations with people who just believe in this town. So there's a lot of support behind this, a lot more excitement than I've ever dreamed. And this town's been, Port Orchard and South Kitsap have been dormant for quite some time, and it's really coming alive. And working in public relations, I kind of look for that energy, and it's happening right now. Last Friday, I had the opportunity to lecture to a couple of marketing classes at the high school. And I started out as talking about my firm and things you're supposed to do. This is marketing, this is the state of the industry, this is what you can do with your career. The students are about to fall asleep because they start school at 7:30 in the morning. And so halfway through, I shifted up and I hand them the keys to the city. I said, okay, you're the mayors now. There are no budget restrictions, there are no rules. What dream city would you build? And the kids just lit up. And they wouldn't stop talking about what they want to see in South Kitsap. And it was really exciting for me, and I actually went over and were late to the next classes, but they didn't want to stop talking to me. I gave them the opportunity to suggest their own business ideas, and several of them came up with concepts like, we want kayak rentals. I'm like, why aren't you doing that right now? Well, this facility wants to do something like that. Why don't high school students run it? And I'm already working on business plans for them. There was one student, I just wanted to read his email really quick, because I gave out my confirmation or contact information at the end, and received just a swarm of emails from kids who are excited about the future of their town and why they want to stay here and what they want to build. This one really affected me. I won't give his name, but it goes like this. Hi, Ryan. I was in the sports marketing class you spoke to this morning. I am a photographer, and my dream is to have a place where at-risk teens can come to find their creative passions and pursue them. I believe that our future is in the next generations, and I can make a genuine difference in the way our generation views the world. And I know for a fact that it will benefit mental health, keep kids away from drugs, alcohol, abusive homes, and relationships, and make a real difference in the future of the city. And when the kids leave high school, spreading it to the world. But I don't have the funding to do it. To be completely honest with you, my family is living on paycheck to paycheck, and I always don't get to eat. That is one of the things that drives me so much. I have great ideas and creative passion, and I have seen my idea work and watch a kid go from being a drug addict to being in a running START program, serving at church, and being a leader in his community. I know it can work. I just need the space and the time to do it, and for someone to take a chance on me. Thank you for your time. I hope to continue to talk to you in the future. While this is representative of one student, I think it's representative of Port Orchard, and this is a great project that can pull all of us together to live healthier, better lifestyles.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Steve. Want to take this? I guess I need it.
You do. You want to be on the record, or maybe you don't.
Thanks. I'll be brief. Axel Strecklejohn, Commissioner of the Court. My fellow commissioners have pretty much summed it up earlier, but I think commissioners of board, I think at the end of the day, you put pencil to the paper. We look at the economic value. When we look at the economic development opportunities of this project, I think that you'll see this one probably ranks up there in the top, if not the top one or two. I've been here since, well, not as long as Larry, of course, but been here since 1980. And, Port Orchard's our county seat. And if we look at Port Orchard, we look at the opportunities, we see it every day, but I don't know that we acknowledge that. And I think this is an opportunity. I think we should seize the opportunity, and the port will be there to support it and help it along the way.
Thanks, Axel.
Hi, I'm Corinne Haydock. I am a business owner in downtown Port Orchard, and I am the vice president of the Port Orchard Bay Street Association, representing them here today. I was the Port Orchard Chamber Executive Director for nearly 7 years. I run as a volunteer coordinator a very small venue called the Port Orchard Public Market, and I have over 40 years of not-for-profit experience in Kitsap County. I feel like that gives me a unique perspective and experience. I've been in the front line of the people who call, who want a facility in Port Orchard and in South Kitsap. And there's a lot of us here in this room that have that experience. I'm not going to go reiterate or be redundant, but those inquiries, those requests have come in from everybody who wants to do an anniversary party, who wants to do a regional or state conference. And there is no place. I could not give those people what they were looking for. About 6 or 7 years ago, I served on a task force that was coordinated by our former Port Orchard mayor and our current South Kitsap commissioner. And it was to look at a community center, a recreational event center. The interest was high, the need is obvious. There were very positive survey results, which unfortunately have sat for 6 or 7 years. Because no one has come forward to do this. There's not been that person, that business, that group that could take it and run with it. All my friends are here tonight, not all of them, I have a lot more than this. But we are here because we know it's our time to do this. And yes, additional funds need to be raised. I think it's obvious this community will step up, and we've done the work ahead of time. We're not going to say X is going to do this or Y is going to do that, but we're already working on it. It's our opportunity to do something that's transformative. Everybody said that tonight. We've needed a captain. We now have several captains and a bunch of first mates and a whole crew. We have the captains in the room to do this project. We have a vision, we have a need, we have a plan, we have a path, we have desire and determination, and it's our time, and we hope you will heavily consider that, because we're here to do it. We're here to do it, so thank you. Thank you.
Chuck Perkins.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Chuck Perkins, and I'm representing South Kitsap High School Road. We started the program about 2.5 years ago, And currently, we're looking for boat storage because we're trailering these 65-foot long racing shells every day, which is reducing their life by about 50%. The school district has funded this program. We currently are supporting 40 to 60 high school boys and girls, and the board has actually lowered the cost of sports and clubs in the South Kitsap area just to encourage participation of as many students as possible. This means our athletes pay only about $150 for fall and $75 for spring. And this compares to every other club in the Puget Sound region that is charging between $1,000 and $5,000 a year. We currently sponsor the Wolfpack Regatta, which is held right outside the Port Orchard Marina in the spring. It's doubled in size every time we've done it. We'd like to also add a regatta in the fall. Starting Monday, they'll be launching from the Port Orchard Port of Bremerton boat launch for their spring season. And we would like to be part of this project. Thank you.
So next is, let's see, Barbara Baglio.
So hello, my name is Robert Baglio. I grew up in South Kitsap. I'm a business owner here. I am involved with the project, but I'm here to talk to you as a local citizen. I went to grade school here, graduated from South Kitsap High School. I remember Jordan's, I remember Blanchard's, I remember the post office. You know, Port Orchard, think about it. What's in downtown right now? Nothing comes to mind. Nothing really does. We need this in Port Orchard. You know, you talk about a catalyst. This truly is the catalyst that will revitalize Port Orchard and get things started. You know, the city has started with their mixed-use pilot project, with the 640 Bay Street project. These are all things that are gaining traction. We really do need this project. It's very important. And of all the projects that are out here, this one has the largest impact and potential impact upon Port Orchard, South Kitsap, and the surrounding communities as far as from an economic development standpoint. So Port Orchard needs this, and Port Orchard wants this. So it seems to check all the boxes when I look at it, and we certainly hope you guys do support this project.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's me. Where's the mic? Corrine got it. Well, I'd just like to start out saying, Corrine, I followed in Corrine's footsteps by a couple of years, and the requests haven't changed, and they haven't gone away. We're still getting calls every day for viable options and opportunities to conduct these different activities. So, my name is Matt Murphy. I'm the Executive Director for the Port Orchard Chamber of Commerce, and I'm a fourth-generation South Kitsap resident. My family homesteaded out on Glenwood Road in 1889. Graduated from South Kitsap High School like my father did, and like my grandmother did in 1913. It's one of the first classes that graduated from there. Been here a long time, and I can see South Kitsap needs a place to be the hub. Okay, I can see this downtown location being the hub. I mean, I could go and I could say, yeah, what Rob said, what Robert said, what Steve said, you know, and we can do all that. But you know, the mission of the Chamber of Commerce is to promote business and encourage community. This does that. This does that and then some. Back in December, it's about the second week of December, some of you may remember, we had a little storm in South Kitsap. Y'all remember the tornado that hit Port Orchard? A tornado hit Port Orchard, okay? This community came together like nothing I've ever seen before, right? We went out, you know, the mayor was out and a group of people, we went out and we toured it, and trees cut houses in two. Uprooted trees this big. It was incredible, the damage. We pulled together. Right now, the port, the Bay Street Association, the library, the chamber, Kitsap Bank, we're all working together. Things are gelling in Port Orchard like never before. And we really need this to be the hub for the community and the hub from bridge to bridge. This could be it. Port Orchard's dead center between the Hood Canal Bridge and the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. And that's what we need to draw people into town and increase our income, increase the population, and just make it a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I'm Jill Jean. I'm the director for the Kitsap Regional Library, and I had prepared remarks tonight, but they've all been said. But I just want to accent two other points. First of all, we believe that partnerships make good government. And from this kind of a project this kind of a project really becomes a catalyst to really create new thoughts in the hearts and minds of donors and foundations and other private entities that are very interested in funding these kinds of projects. And I think we haven't underscored enough that there are private resources out there to support this project. And the other thing that I would say is that for all of you members of the Kitsap Public Facility District, be sure and take a visit up to Kingston to see the Village Green project. That's the kind of project that we're talking about for Port Orchard. It is a project that is a partnership of several entities that came together. And when that started, we didn't know how it was going to be paid for, but it's all paid for now. We didn't know how it was going to be run, but with everyone's pushing and cooperation, we have a well-funded and well-run event center for the Kingston Community Center. So be sure and take a look to the north at a real success story. And thank you very much. With, we really do want to be the first library in the country to have check out a kayak and check out.
We've tried to say it the best way we could. We hope you heard us, and we look forward to more discussions.
Steve, just one last point. We can't forget you have to have a private developer to make this kind of project go, and the private developer is supposed to be bringing in capital. That's really critical. If we had a private developer in our project, you've got one now. That's a key to this whole thing working.
Steve and team, thank you for your presentation. Love the community support. Way to go, Port Orchard community.
I am Carla Boughton. I'm the Planning and Economic Development Director for the City of Poulsbo. And I am excited to be here before you tonight to present the Poulsbo Event and Recreation Center. Building on our last presentation and our submittal that you received in December, we have worked to advance the project's concept, and we believe that the Poulsbo Event and Rec Center is a true regional special event facility that is in the spirit of the PFD legislation. Our presentation tonight will demonstrate that a partnership between the City of Poulsbo and the board will have the greatest economic and social impact of any current proposal. With me tonight is Mary McCluskey, the city's Park and Recreation Director. Mary and her Parks and Rec team will be the city's on-site director for the planning, design, operations, and maintenance of the facility. And also with me tonight is Peter Bacciuello of Gardner Bay Consulting, a land use consultancy that has helped us program the facility. Peter has a history of important projects in Kitsap County, and I think perhaps some of you know him. And he has been a value with us in preparing for the project. The three of us will be presenting the City of Poulsbo's project in detail, but I would also like to introduce to you some of the members of our team that are with us tonight. Of course, we have Becky Erickson, our mayor, who just disappeared. Our finance director, Debbie Boer, our city engineer, Diane Linnaeus, and Helen Whiteco is from the planning department, and she'll be assisting us with some of the handouts that we will be giving you throughout the presentation. Also, before you, we've provided you a brief program guide for your reference, and like I said, Helen will be presenting you a few more throughout the presentation. So as we'll start, I'm introducing you to the Poulsbo Event and Recreation Center that we have branded The Perk. We connect with that name because honestly, it perks us up when we think about this project and its potential for the community to meet so many of its needs. The time is right for such a facility, and we are really excited to present this as the next PFD project. So we are an interactive group and we want to engage your questions throughout. So we're going to make pauses throughout our presentation to check in with you to make sure that our elements and what we are presenting make sense. And if you have any questions, so please feel free during those times to let us know what's on your mind. And then as we get going, the presentation is going to talk about the facility, what it can mean to the PFD, Poulsbo, and the region. We'll spend some time talking about the economic benefit of the project. And we'll finish with the details of our project plan and the collaborative process with the PFD. So the PERC is a 40,000 square foot event and recreation center that will include up to 4 acres of all-season lighted turf fields and complementary facilities. It's a 2-story building with an event center on the top floor to take advantage of the great views that you will see later in our presentation, where weddings, family reunions, business meetings, trade shows, athletic banquets, exhibits, lectures, and conferences will occur. The bottom floor will be the home to the city's Park and Recreation Center, where multiple classrooms, commercial kitchen, offices, and a fitness area will be housed. The funding request is twofold. We're requesting $400,000 for a feasibility study as phase 1, and then up to $19.6 million to advance a feasible project. And as we stated before in our last presentation and in your written submittal, the city will match dollar to dollar the PFD's funding for a true public project. So our objective—
Who owns the property?
The city of Poulsbo does. Our objective is to move through the funding and review process in a timely and collaborative manner with the PFD. Because our project is at concept stage, we have been able to align our project phasing directly with the Kitsap PFD funding as set forth in your scope. This slide also shows that the city has thought this through. The PERC is a real project. It's well conceived. We have a clear implementation plan and a full understanding of what commitments are necessary to fulfill our vision as a flagship project for the PFD. Why do I believe the PERC is a flagship project for the Kitsap Public Facility District? Your evaluation criteria makes it clear. It's a regional special event and recreation center. It's an economic catalyst project. It demonstrates government leadership in captivating the citizens' needs and interests and partnering with private investment to reinvigorate an established commercial center. It represents a stimulant for future development, and it will increase the tax base through tourism and recreation. It has all the characteristics necessary to achieve all the board's goals and objectives. And what is really exciting for us is the partnerships that we bring with this project. We are joined by a number of influential and eager partners. We have formed partnerships with Western Washington University and Olympic College, the adjacent hotelier, local sports clubs, and our 23rd legislative delegation of Representatives Appleton and Hanson and Senator Rolfes have all joined in their support of this project. We will provide you these letters of support at the end of our presentation. We are very confident that you will also see the PERC as your flagship project. The PFD's goals and role are complementary to the city's. We can accomplish the PERC together with our common goals and outcomes. The city is in the business of getting things done, and we know you are too. So why the PERC and why now in Poulsbo? Well, the first reason is because it's the fulfillment of the O'Haven Master Plan, which this site is located within. The fact that the city owns this parcel is due to the developer deeding the property to the city for the very purpose of tournament fields. The opportunity the PERC represents is something the city has planned for many years. For a regional perspective, College Marketplace is designated as a mixed-use center through the Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council's countywide planning policies. The city's comprehensive plan has identified College Marketplace as a location for for public investment to help catalyze build out, and of course our proposed sports fields will bring regional tournaments. With that, I'd like to transfer our presentation over to our Parks and Rec Director, Mary.
Thank you, Carla. Reimagine. The city is adapting the Regional Events Center master plan from 13 years ago, and I worked with some of you on that master plan in 2006. I think you all agree it is a very strong partnership between the city, the Public Facilities District, Kitsap County, and the North Kitsap School District. Phase 1 of that project, just to review, we turfed 2 fields at North Kitsap and at Strawberry Field. We did drainage at a 3rd field, it's a grass field, and we did some interior trails on the site that moved people around. It really was and is a community project.
Plus lights.
Plus what?
Plus lights.
Oh, and lights, of course, lights at, yes, turf and lights at Strawberry Field. And as you can see on this graph that was provided by the North Kitsap School District just last week, Strawberry Field, which has 3 fields on it, 1 turfed and lighted and 2 grass, has had over 34,000 usage hours since September, since their school year started, September of 2018. That picture up there is the Strawberry Field, turf field, facing south. The North Kitsap Regional Event Center had many future phases, but the one that we're really talking about tonight is the Event Center. As you may recall, and you probably have all seen the map, the Regional Event Center was set to go on a field kind of behind the North Kitsap Community Pool, right there on Hostmark. As we've had discussions over the last couple of years, we've come to the conclusion that's probably not the best site for a 40,000 square foot building and parking. Especially the traffic impact, especially before and after school care, just won't make it a good community asset, a good accessible community asset. That's how we've gotten into the discussion. Once the legislation changed a bit that allowed us to start looking at other sites that weren't contiguous, that's when the PERC reimagination really began. The school district is on board with the new siting of the PERC, and you will see that letter in your packet you'll get at the end of the day, or of the hour. We feel that College Marketplace is the ideal location in Poulsbo because the infrastructure is complete. There's transportation, you can get there by car, by foot, by bike, and it's very accessible. We want to finish what the North Kitsap Regional Event Center project began many years ago. This is going to be a new community asset. This new asset will have a regional, local, civic, educational, and family-focused positive impact for Poulsbo and beyond. Do you want to host a family reunion or a wedding? Upstairs at the PERC, and the event part of it will be there. Do you want to do a trade show on photography? You can do it right there at the event center. Do you want to take a watercolor class? We'll provide the program, and you'll have the classroom on the lower level of the PERC. Do you want to work out and watch a tournament at the fields? They'll be right there on the side of the PERC. We foresee many relationships with Olympic College and, back. Olympic College is right up in here. And so we see many possibilities of working with Western Washington University on the peninsulas and Olympic College. I actually already do quite a bit of work with Western, some of our stewardship projects at the park, so we already have a really good working relationship. The PERC will be a new focal point in our growing community. With the purchase of 2 parcels, and you'll see the map in a little bit, with 2 parcels just on the east side of the city-owned property, we will be able to add 2 tournament fields. And you put those 2 tournament fields together with the Strawberry Field Complex, that's 3 fields, with North Kitsap High School, which has 1 lighted field, and Poulsbo Middle School, we can be a multi-venue city for all kinds of tournaments. And you know, we've all wanted Viking Cup to come back, but we also have to remember that we have opportunities to do adult soccer, youth and adult lacrosse, flag football. There's all kinds of things that go on. So we want to do this for all the different activities. one thing I do want to add, the city has relied on the North Kitsap School District fields for all of our field activities, and these will be the first non-school district community fields owned in the city of Poulsbo. Okay, the center itself. The mission of the Poulsbo Parks and Recreation Department is to promote the quality of life by serving the community, the needs of quality and affordable educational and recreational programs, parks, and services for all residents and visitors. We are a service-oriented department with goals of accomplishing things for our community. This will be an activity center, year-round programs. There will be indoor activities, outdoor opportunities, and special events throughout the property. It will be multi-generational and community serving. The benefit to our local clubs, associations, schools, and ad hoc groups that need space will be great. Recreation programming will increase to meet community demand. Our Parks and Recreation Department planned, implemented, and evaluated 700 activities in 2018, and 68% of our participants were from outside the city limits. Event space is really needed in Poulsbo. We heard it also in Port Orchard, but Poulsbo has a similar problem. Most of our large spaces are within the school district, which is wonderful, and they're very good about keeping them open outside of school hours. One of the examples is the North Kitsap Auditorium. That place is busy, and I know events are turned away, plays and that type of thing. It's the only place in town that holds 500 people. We're hoping that the PERC can help alleviate some of those problems. The recreation centers in general are the heart and soul of a community. I want to tell you just a quick story about 15 years ago. We had a young mom, didn't know her at that point, but she had moved to the community, first day of school. She had dropped her 2 young children off at the elementary school. Her husband had left to commute back to Seattle. She had no friends yet. She came into the recreation center that morning, sat down at the chair in the lobby, started to cry. Well, she was looking for community. She was blown away by all the changes in her life. She ended up at our front door. Her kids participated in programs for many years until they graduated and moved on. But that's the kind of center we want to be. We want to continue to be all. So the time is right for the PERC. I was in the city council chambers in February 2009 when the city agreed to buy the recreation center there. Now, as many of you know, this was the old Union High School. It was built in 1930. See, they played football right in the front there, which is now a parking lot. Somewhere in the 50s, it became North Kitsap High School until the new high school was built in 58. Then it became Poulsbo Middle School in the late 60s and early 70s. It sat empty for many years until Housing Kitsap took it over, remodeled it to be the recreation center on top and the county office, some county offices down below. The city bought it and considered that temporary, and they knew that once we were ready to build a new recreation center, the proceeds from that building, from the sale of that building, will go into a new center. So that is part of our project match.
I know, I played.
Oh, you played football there?
No,
Oh.
I played basketball
Oh.
there in the over 30 leagues
Oh.
when I lived in Poulsbo.
Oh. Sorry. Oh, it's time to retire the old Union High School. Again, that building, that's what I was getting at. Time to retire the old Union High School, and its time is right for the PERC. This project will create a cultural and community space accessible for families, seniors, athletics, nonprofit organizations, education, and business. It will see the Parks and Recreation Department evolve to provide broader community services and events while building partnerships. The City of Poulsbo is committed to this project. Any questions on the recreation side of things? The bottom floor? Okay, Carla?
About time you got a new home.
You think?
All right, so we're going to just take a quick pause here to see if you have any questions about the proposal, the project, the PERC, before we move on to the next phase of our presentation.
So is the top floor of the PERC capable of hosting conferences?
Yes, yes, that's what it will be designed for.
just to give you a sense, we put together a floor plan diagram. Obviously, it's a work in progress at this point. But you can see on the top floor, we've got a large open area that can be divided into multiple operating facilities. We have some set-aside meeting rooms. Opens up into a deck on the front so you can actually get out and view the soccer fields from below. And then downstairs with the recreational facility, all the support facilities to help the operations up here. And then offices for what will be a contract operator and all the ancillary facilities. So the idea is or segmented conference, or one full conference on the top floor with viewing areas, and then the actual hard work and parks department down below.
What's the area of the open space on the top floor?
We're right here at about 90 by 50 in this diagram, and that's a rough approximation of what we'd be looking at. So room for about 300 people.
Now, somewhere in this concept, there's an idea about a hotel. You're going to talk about that later?
Yep, we will. Yep. Any other questions? All right, so I like to.
Sorry.
Oh,
I have my mouth full. The wrong time to ask that. My question, I guess, was, are you suggesting that this be a melding or a reconfiguration of the North Kitsap Regional Event Center to go outside the defined boundaries that are the existing footprint for the North Kitsap Regional Event Center?
I think that's what we're suggesting. Yep, that we're adapting and reimagining what that event center can look like on a location that we think is far superior to the constrained North Kitsap School District campus.
Yeah, well, that'll be a renegotiation of an ILA and an arrangement
We
between
fully
the
expect
four
that.
partners.
Yep.
Okay.
It'll be a lot easier this time, Mike.
Yes. Any other? Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about Poulsbo for those of you who may not get up our way that often. Helen actually provided you a little handout that we have that we call our fun facts about Poulsbo. So Poulsbo was founded by Norwegian fishermen on the shores of Liberty Bay, and as the city has grown over the past 110 years, that Norwegian fishing village heritage and its roots remain very strong and provides an important shared heritage for the citizens and the city. So we have a short video that we hope shows you a bit of Poulsbo, our natural beauty, and it will head northward and end at College Marketplace. So as we land at the view, that the PERC will enjoy, I want to share with the board a story. I started with the City of Poulsbo Planning Department in 1995. The Ojeda Master Plan had just been submitted to the Planning Department. It was to be then and now the largest single development project in the city's history. It was a daunting project to work on as a pretty new planner, and of course the planning director took the lead on it. And it provided so many opportunities for our community. At the time, the city was very excited about a brand new partnership that seemed to be coming forward as part of the Ojeda Master Plan, now College Marketplace. And it was the partnership with Olympic College, where the Ojeda family had dedicated 20 acres, set aside 20 acres for a future home for a Poulsbo campus of Olympic College. And there were times during the 3-year permitting process where it seemed like the master plan would never get over the finish line. But it meant a lot to the North Kitsap region, and the possibility of a Poulsbo Community College kept us going. So now here we are with the commercial development serving North Kitsap and Jefferson County. And not only do we have a community college, but we have a 4-year university in our town. 24 years ago, I would have never predicted that Western Washington University would prioritize Kitsap Peninsula and would become one of Poulsbo's greatest partner, and that Poulsbo would become a college town. Well, that's life, right? The unexpected often results in something very wonderful. The PERC can be another movement in the story of College Marketplace. When I visit that site, I can see in my mind's eye this fabulous building sitting on that site right next to the OC Western campus with weddings looking out over soccer games. I can see business conferences and student lectures where parents bring their kids for preschool and toddler drop-off, where youth basketball games are played, and where Friday night hangouts happen. It's a place for everyone, and it truly can be the heart of our community. With that, I'm going to turn over the presentation to Peter, who's going to talk you through some of the economic benefits of this project.
Before you do that, let me make one interruption. We do have a speaker sign-up list. So if there are other members of the audience who want to speak in support, go ahead and sign up and we will call on you later.
So that was a really compelling story. I think that it expresses the city's passion for the project, a project that's going to provide a place for families to gather, for students to collaborate, for businessmen to come together, all for the purpose of enhancing our community and bringing economic value to the community. So let's turn our mind to our thoughts onto the economic parts of the project and the benefit the PERC will provide to Poulsbo, the Kitsap Public Facilities District, and the county. You know, when I first engaged 6 months ago with the city to talk about this project, we began looking at this property and the PFD requirements, and I really became, I was a little uncertain how well would the vision that the city have really match up with the opportunity that the PFD was offering the city. But as we began to look at the location, we looked at the relationship with the college, we began to look at the partnerships with youth soccer, other members of the community that had ideas, and then meeting with the owners of the facility, the hotelier, we began to realize that actually there's a whole new context to this project, and it is a project that's valuable to the Public Facilities District, the city of Poulsbo, and the community. So we took a deeper dive. We got into the history of what College Marketplace is. We looked at some of the economic factors affecting growth in our community. And as we got more understanding of the project and walked through your process, the effort of giving a presentation, permitting the proposal together, coming back to make this presentation tonight has really advanced our understanding of the value to the project. And for me, the greatest value, economic benefit that the PERC creates is the opportunity to stimulate the next wave of private investment in the college marketplace. It was just purchased out of, was it out of foreclosure, Harrison, that they purchased it? Or was it was purchased out of foreclosure? We have a new investor who's committed to putting a hotel on the property adjacent to the Perk. You can see here we have a hotel site, college campus, city-owned property. And this really becomes an opportunity to leverage the courage of a public investment, the leadership of the city of Poulsbo and the PFD to put a really, really valuable project on the ground. I know these catalyst projects work because I've been part of them before. Just here, and we heard earlier tonight, Kerry Bozeman talking about Public Facilities District dropped money in downtown Bremerton, and it cycles through. It stimulates additional private investment. We see the same thing happening here. I was involved and currently involved now with Sound Transit. We're building Eastlink through Bellevue. And you look at the private investment, 7 to 8 times what the public money is, creating these nodes of economic development. So the courage, the foresight to put public monies into play and make public investments in highly visible public facilities that make a difference in the community as a means of stimulating that next wave of economic investment in the community. And we see this as an ideal model for something like that to happen. Some of you remember just one other little story, the city of Bremerton. You know, they took a really bold move back in the early 2000s when they took their public money and doubled down on what now is Evergreen Park. Underutilized, transient, industrial waterfront in Smith Cove in downtown Bremerton. City investment, city courage, city leadership, public investment created what is now the expanded Evergreen Park and a premier waterfront facility. So we know this catalyst concept really does work, and we've seen it in action in our community and many others. So let's take a look. Whoops, wrong button. Sorry about that. Let's take a look at the project through an economic lens. What's the uplift that this is going to create? First, we're well connected we're well connected to Highway 3. We're in the college marketplace. There's lots of existing retail. There's been huge public investment with all the infrastructure in place. And as Carla mentioned, we've been set aside money for the purpose of putting recreational and public facilities as part of the master plan. Closely connected to the college. Easy access to the north to the Hood Canal in Jefferson County. My daughter's here tonight. She tells me that there's students that come to school at Vinland. They come down and they play soccer in the afternoons. Parents would love to have this type of facility just that little bit closer to the bridge and potentially, you know, be part of what this development could be, a place for them to spend a little bit more time when they're in the community. But it's more than just the location. We connect to a number of industries in Kitsap and the Olympic Peninsula that would benefit from a conference facility connected with a college campus. This concept of bringing higher education together with a meeting place in a community that's robust and in a center that's been planned and providing retail sales tax. It makes good sense for a lot of our regional partners or our regional users or our regional trade shows to come to Poulsbo for these types of events. I believe that these conditions point to the success of the Perk as a catalyst project and to the growth of the college marketplace with its potential to accelerate the development of the college marketplace and bring it to full build-out in a much quicker fashion. We're currently right now under 50% built out on the marketplace, and we'd like to see that completed sooner than later, and we believe that the Perk represents that opportunity. So, as we look at the economic benefit, we first have to understand the model that we want to use to assess it and how it's going to generate an outcome. And this is not rocket science here. I think you've seen this before. This is traditional economic uplift based on government investment, either in policy or funding of facilities. They invest, they create a catalyst. In our case, that catalyst is going to be more pedestrian traffic, more potential consumers on the ground in the Perk. That's from conferences during the week. That's from soccer tournaments on the weekend. That's from daytime parks and recreation events, and that's from nighttime events within the event center itself. So it creates this more of this 20-hour-a-day addition of consumer activity into the college marketplace. We see that attracting new consumer energy, which in turn will create the pro forma numbers that developers are interested in and evaluating where they want to invest. And we think that uplifting the college marketplace with a public facility is going to result in new private investment. That goes to new real estate excise tax, lodging tax, fees, ultimately the jobs that come along with the construction and the staffing of the new facilities. And really what we're doing is we're uplifting the tax base in Kitsap County wide by stimulating this long-term development or accelerating the long-term completion of the college marketplace. So you asked the question, maybe not, why would private investment follow a public commitment to build a facility? Well, they look at key performance indicators, and one of the key performance indicators is what do the demographics look like. The PERC is in an area of extremely strong positive demographic from a developer's perspective. We've got good solid population growth, we've got good solid job basis for jobs and a long-term job resource, very high family incomes in the 5-mile radius around the PERC facility, very attractive to retail folks. And then of course I've mentioned before this balance of nighttime and daytime mix, which is going to bring more consumer activity into that area for a longer period of time each day. Our tax revenues are a good key performance indicator for developers that would be interested in looking at investment. We've got strong hotel occupancy and growth that indicates tourism. We've seen sales tax revenue grow. That indicates growth in the community, new consumers moving into Poulsbo, and just the extended spending that's going on in our positive economy. And of course, we will support the increase of lodging and sales tax revenue. Virtually immediately upon the opening of PERC, we'll see a 30% increase, or we expect to see a 30% increase in lodging tax revenues. A new hotel's coming online. We're providing a destination for people to come to utilize the hotel. The hotel attractively asks or markets us as an amenity to come and stay at their place. So there's this real synergy between the two. At a more granular scale, what do the economies of college marketplace look like and why is it attractive? We have strong anchor retail, big box anchor retail, places that churn up lots of sales and lots of sales revenue. But we have a nice second tier of businesses, service lines, storefronts, some restaurants, mostly fast food. But really key, we're looking at a new hotel site. In fact, last Friday, Carla approved the decision to allow that project to move into building permits. We have our partner at Olympic College. And really what I'm excited about is these opportunities for up to 300 housing units to be built. Having a public facility will stimulate the interest in people wanting to have houses close to this type of mixed-use facility. So we look at the economic opportunities associated with each of the facilities that we're proposing. And each one has its own economic potential. We have an event center, a number of trade shows, conferences, business events. We see this connection, this tie with Olympic College and Western Washington University as having a built-in user group that's going to need facilities for their higher education activities and places for their students to recreate and be engaged in performing arts, or even particularly volunteer or intern with some of the parks and recs events so that they can actually participate in some of the work that's coming. All of these generate opportunity for economics, or really economic value, as we heard earlier. Multi-day trade shows. We know from industry standards that people coming to a multi-day event are going to spend another $50 to $75 above what they would pay just for their room and their conference. putting those people in a facility or an area of mixed use that has a lot of retail attraction to them, or that's very close to downtown Poulsbo, which is a destination of its own, it just creates the opportunity to stimulate more spending and more retail sales. Obviously, we mentioned the increase in lodging tax, and a consistent user in the hotel or in the college provides a stabilizing force early on. Tournament fields. We have a great opportunity for soccer, lacrosse, ultimate. We have an adult soccer representative here tonight, very interested in collaborating with us on tournament fields for semi-pro soccer events. Kind of a lot like the Kitsap Blue Jackets in the day, right, Rick? Yeah. So it's an opportunity. So we see youth soccer and other events. There's upward of 200 tournament opportunities per year. We'll have to go out and market those. We'll have to attract them. But there is a backlog of tournament activity that wants to come to Kitsap. We know field rentals will be in the $150 to $200 an hour range, and Mary showed earlier that there were 35,000 hours this school year on lighted fields for North Kitsap School District. We provide an outlet for that, and just if we're just taking 25% or 30% of that load, picking up another 25% of the load, field rentals and tournament fees have a real potential. And if we have adult soccer on a competitive scale wanting to use our facilities, then we're looking at setting up admission fees, selling tickets, and having really special events there. It may not be soccer. It could be the Poulsbo RV show. It could be the outdoor garden show. It can be an outdoor concert events. The fields will be usable for outdoor events just beyond the soccer. I can't speak enough about the opportunity to have a hotel coming in. It means a lot to the economic value of our project. I've mentioned it before that there's a synergy between the city or the perk and the hotel. They have an amenity that they can advertise. They represent to us an amenity that attracts more trade shows, more conferences, and more tournaments. And again, it's weekend tournaments, it's business during the weekdays, it's parks and recs in the daytime, daylight hours, it's evening events and performances at night in the event center. So it really does become this all day, all the time activity. But really, when we get down to the economics of the hotel, we have a common goal. They want more revenue, and we want more lodging tax. And if we collaborate together and we market jointly together, that's the outcome that I think we're going to get. You asked us to look at job creation. We talked about jobs earlier. So we look at the OMB numbers from the government, or some of the statistics out of the Economic Development Agency, and we can make some general estimates about job creation just based on what we know about what the perk is going to be. We know that there's going to be some employees that are going to generate some direct jobs in the community. They'll induce some indirect jobs in the community. We're not going to be a big employment center, but we are going to generate a lot of temporary jobs during the 2 years of construction, and that's a value. And then if we take on this stimulus, this catalyst, it's a word that's been bannered around a lot tonight, but it's a true thing that happens in economic development. You set something in place that really stimulates activity around you, makes those externalities really get excited and trigger faster. We've got another 50% of the college marketplace that will be looking for pad-ready projects to build out on. Each one of those is going to have a temporary job impact for construction. Each one of those will have indirect multipliers for jobs in the community or direct job hires for whatever they're building. So there is a real job stimulus, not just with the perk, but it's the wave and our goal of trying to accelerate the college marketplace infill. You asked us to talk about private investment, and there's a lot of ways to look at private investment. For me, private investment's happened. At least a lot of it has. We're pad ready. City owns the property, street infrastructure, 4 lanes, close to the freeway. We are able to come in and put our site on the ground quickly. It is the public infrastructure that's made this possible to date. And what's really exciting is that the owner and his team are going to be continued out there marketing these other opportunities and using the Public Facilities District investment and the PERC as an amenity to attract future investment, all for the purpose of accelerating the infill in the college marketplace and the expansion of the campus. So we look at the same concept for tourism. And we saw earlier that tourism's growing in our community, and that's great. I think that the real potential here is that we've got this concept again of daytime users for the parks facility, recreational users on the weekends, nighttime users at the conference center. And we have this activity center that becomes a destination. But we don't forget that downtown Poulsbo is also a destination, right, of its own right. And having this complementary facility in College Marketplace is not only going to stimulate that activity, but we believe it'll spill over and roll into downtown, and we'll see an uplift of the economic benefit in downtown Poulsbo as well. So, where does the money come from? We talked earlier, city is ready to match dollar for dollar up to the $40 million. Now, is it $40 million? It could be 28. And if you look at the cost estimate that was in our proposal, I think we're between $28 and $38 million currently that we're estimating. We've got a $40 million goal out there because we want to make sure that the facility that we're investing in is right. City's willing to match that dollar for dollar. We've got the opportunity for administrative or voted bonds. We have the land that is already ours that we're going to commit. We have the residual land sales from the current Union High School that will go back into the match. Obviously, grants, third-party financing, legislative earmarks, all the other things that are out there to be available to pursue. Setting up a metropolitan taxing district just for the PERC, just so that we can have something to help create the match that the city needs. These are all on the table. I think the big point about the city's match is they're going to go dollar for dollar. They have multiple options to get the revenue produced, and there's no doubt that the city, with their experience and their mission of putting public facilities on the ground, they understand how to plan these projects, they understand how to program these projects, they understand the political, what's the political race course that you've got to go through to be able to bring your council along, bring your partners along, bring a PFD partner into the mix, so that we can amend a funding agreement and actually move forward with this type of project. So, questions about the economics of the PERC?
Regarding the hotel, 100 rooms for the Fairfield Inn Suites, how many jobs does that create?
Well, I haven't talked specifically with the hotelier about the number of jobs that will create. We're just assuming that is sort of already spent investment by the hotelier. But if I had to venture a guess, which it would be, he's looking at hiring well over 25, 30 people to operate that hotel on a regular basis.
And then the $15 million investment cost, how many jobs does that bring for?
Well, that $15 million investment cost is for the hotel. That's going to bring complementary job creation for the temporary construction jobs and the indirect produced during that temporary period. Using the same numbers from OMB, I think they say $92,000 a capital investment creates one FTE for 1 year for a job in the temporary market. That's roughly the numbers that we've been using. They're going to be roughly the same for what they're creating for temporary jobs from the hotel. And that's what we're excited about because, yeah, we'll create some jobs and there'll be some opportunities, but realistically, it's the follow-on. We're creating a better place for people to invest in by putting a public facility there, attracting all these kids, all these families, multi-generational opportunity. And I think that the follow-on from that, the number of projects that we can stimulate in this next wave of 5 or 6 years is going to be where we'll really realize the uplift.
I think the number I saw was 10 permanent jobs at the new facility.
Right, I was just saying for the hotel specifically, both for people who are gonna work at the hotel, plus for the construction, the number of jobs that would create.
Is the size of the perk sufficient to host multi-day conferences that would result in overnight stays and restaurant visits and all that? Or is it going to be primarily day meetings where everybody goes home at night?
You're going to see when we go to the next phase that we really are trying to create a destination multi-day event facility. With the hotel there, it really gives us that draw to be able to say, come, stay for a day, stay for a night, stay for a couple of days, hold your conference here. Not only do we have opportunities for restaurants in the quaint little Norway of downtown Poulsbo, but we've got a nice hotel, walking distance across the street to the facility, and then connected right back to the campus. You know, we really would like to see the college, you know, we're really working with them to create this sort of more routine use of the facility for helping build their programs, bringing some of their public-private partnership conferences to this facility, and we think that there's going to be a really, really close connection there. But having said that, whether it's the, you know, we're competitive, we don't want to take away from the Kitsap County Conference Center, we want to be complementary to that, but the same types of events. Maybe just they're coming from Port Angeles or Port Townsend, they're coming down from Port Ludlow because they need more of an event space than what the resort can provide. It's an hour from the Edmonds Ferry Terminal to the Perk. We can draw from South Snohomish and North King County for types of events. I mean, I'm in the Seattle marketplace now. We come over to the Kitsap Conference Center all the time. Being able to go to Edmonds instead of downtown Seattle to get over to Kitsap to have a conference, I think that's a big draw for a lot of people in South Snohomish County, Clallam County, Jefferson County, and then even reaching down into Mason, North Pierce. I think we have a pretty good circle that we'd be able to draw from. But of course, one of the things we have to do is get through the project process first. And if we could, I'd just like to.
Couple more questions.
Okay, go ahead.
It's actually a sideways question. So the campus now, this college campus now, how many students?
Carol, do you know the student body at the campus?
It's hard to say. I just got my associate's degree there this summer, or finished it this summer. There's always classrooms full, but they don't have the community group space there. They have a small commons area, they have a lot of classrooms and a library, but there's no common use space that they could use for those types of conferences at the college.
No, I understood that. I was just trying to figure out what the student count is.
The enrollment for OC is around 200. Western's a little over 100. Western is doubling down though, meaning that they're not only are they doing 4-year degree, they're talking about graduate level programs at the campus. The big premier one is their cybersecurity program. So we just had a meeting with both the college presidents, and they are huge investment headed to actually expand those course curriculums. Right.
I'll piggyback on that and just say, how does the creation of the perk, or how does this event center and the hotel, whatever that you believe will happen because of this event center, how does that change what Western Washington does or doesn't do?
It augments it.
How does that change what Olympic College does or doesn't do?
So I'd just like to comment two points there, because we've thought about this a lot. I think the first point is it's the opportunity to accelerate their investment in property that they've already programmed for. So we talk about our property, we talk about where the hotel is going to come out of the ground starting early next year. OC, Western Washington, the campus owns this piece. They've already purchased it and they're ready to build a facility. Depending on how we collaborate on the use of the perk and development of the perk, it could definitely change the way they want to configure their facility, because they realize they have a partner in the PFD and the city of Poulsbo that can provide that larger gathering space and some recreational facilities to support them. So it really does put that little bit of twist on it. The acceleration and then more flexibility for them to put the type of program they want to put in place. Anything else? So, it's late, coming around the final turn into the home stretch. We pick up the pace, but we couldn't leave you without talking about the actual project and how we see the implementation coming. You've got a cost estimate in front of you. I know it's in small print, but it shows that there's a lot of thought that's gone into this. We're at the concept phase of the project, and what's nice is because we are at that early phase, we're able to align just very nicely with your planning process, so that we're going to walk through the same steps that you outlined in your request for proposal. And we're starting at the concept feasibility study. Just because we say concept doesn't mean we're not ready to go. The project is ready. It's pad-ready site. It's already owned by the city. We have developed the partnerships. We've got a clear vision for how it's going to move forward. We've identified a very clear schedule to how to walk through the process smartly. And we've developed a very firm cost estimate for phase one, which is the feasibility that you described in your planning process. We want to work collaboratively with you on that so that we can come back at each step of the process, make sure we're keeping our goals aligned, we're consistent with what the expectations were set at the beginning of each step, and move on to amend each funding agreement and hopefully be in construction by 2023. So phase one, this is the concept from feasibility, from concept where we are today to getting to feasibility. We have to do a formal economic analysis. I mean, lots of us can pull data off of government records and make predictions. We need somebody like Eco Northwest, who I've worked with before, or community partners or Burke and Associates to come in and do that real detailed economic analysis so that really we can come back to you and provide you with the financial information you need to make a really informed decision about how this is going to work for your board, your requirements. We've got to do space planning, land bearing capacity. There's going to be a preliminary operations assessment. We've got to look at a resource plan. We've got to figure out the transfer of parks into the facility. What's our field configuration going to be? We figure we need 9 to 12 months from the time you say go to get through that process. We've already identified the potential resources that we want to go out for RFP for technical expertise. And then we've got the in-house expertise at the city in programming, planning, and making the firm commitments with their council to bring the funding plan back to the PFD. All of this, of course, in coordination with the community and in close connection with Kitsap Public Facilities District. We've got that taken care of. We truly believe that it's not a matter of whether the project is going to be viable after phase one. It's just providing the detail that's necessary with it. We can make commitments to move into phase two. So we would be expecting to be back here 9 to 12 months with a very clear plan to move forward into phase two, which is the detailed engineering, putting our financing packages together, making sure that any real estate acquisition that may be needed, there's a couple of lots that we're considering adding into the mix, that we've gotten that taken care of, and that we're in making sure that the Kitsap Public Facilities District funding agreement is updated one more time so that we can reach our ultimate goal, which is to be here talking about what's it going to take to hire a contractor and get to groundbreaking and then get to ribbon cutting so that we have a new public facilities district or public facility in Poulsbo. So we do have one more slide. Sure.
In general, you've talked about the city making a dollar for dollar match to
Yes.
the PFD on the cost. But I noticed in phase two, you want us to pay 90% of that. Why isn't that a 50-50?
I think that what we're looking at is, and I'd have to look at the numbers again, 90% seems a little skewed to me. I don't know exactly how.
That's what your proposal says for phase two.
Can I just take a quick look at that? So,
City anticipates providing 10% of the phase two cost and we'll be requesting 90% of phase 2 costs to be funded.
You're absolutely correct. That's what we said. The goal that we have is to get help from the PFD to get through feasibility, move ourselves into this phase 2 planning process. During that time, we're going to be developing our funding strategies. So when we get to construction, the city's going to be catching up and making its bulk of its investment when we actually get to the construction phase of the project.
We also have the land evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
The land.
So what exactly is the ask?
So right back
figure
to
this out.
right back to the very beginning, a slide in the presentation. I think Carla said it well. The city's here to ask for $20 million from the Kitsap Public Facilities District to help fund an up to $40 million project. City will match that dollar for dollar. What we're hoping is that phase 1 is mostly funded by the PFD so that we can get through the feasibility, do the economic analysis, do the right type of site plan, so that we can sit down and really provide a detailed funding plan to move through phases 2 and 3.
Peter, I noticed on phase 3 you have a 30% construction contingency. That seems rather high.
At this point in the process, it's just what we need to look at. Economic shifts over 2 years, modifications, changes in design. I think that if you look at the bottom line there, I think I've estimated a $28 to $38 million facility all done at the end of the day. And that does include construction contingency. It includes some contingencies for phase 2 too that are built into some of the line item numbers. We're going to be back on a regular basis refining the construction costs, the design costs, the line item costs for FF&E, field and turf costs throughout the process with you. So again, at a concept level, make a large estimate on a public facility. Typical rule of thumb in our industry is you're going to put 30% on it at this stage of the game.
Okay.
So lastly, just to talk about operations and maintenance, going to be jointly owned. City will be on site. Parks Department will be managing the day-to-day operations of it. We'll have a hospitality and catering contract. Somebody like Columbia Hospitality or an equivalent to actually be running the event center and dealing with all the bookings and schedulings and working the kitchens. We're going to have a lot of local community groups invested. You're going to receive a packet with a number of letters from youth sports groups and professional groups that are going to hopefully work with us on a stewardship plan, a stewardship program. But when it comes right down to it, it is a city parks and recreation facility. General fund will be providing money. There will be staff from Parks Department to be dealing with the long-term maintenance. And we'll probably build in some operation as a maintenance. It's just into our operating contract with the hospitality contractor.
Your proposal for joint ownership, the KPFD doesn't own anything. We've never owned anything.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Then the city of
we're
Poulsbo
not
will be happy.
interested in owning this either.
City of Poulsbo will be happy to own all of it. We just wanted to make sure, you realize that this is us together. The city is really, really committed to a collaborative process. We feel our goals, our values, we're knitted together, and just trying to work through that process collaboratively so that it's all transparent.
We're a financial partner as opposed to an active partner in
Okay.
in the management. But yes, there will be an ILA and we will be partners.
And we look forward to that. All right, let's bring this home, Carla.
All right. So in conclusion, the PERC can be the board's newest flagship project. It meets the spirit of the state law, and it meets the Kitsap Public Facility District's selection criteria. A multi-user special event recreational facility where community, sporting, and cultural events occur and thrive. And it can be so much more, as we talked about tonight. It can be the heart of our community. The city is ready for the fulfillment of the vision created many years ago. We're ready to partner with you, as we've talked about, dollar to dollar. We are committed to this project, and we believe that together we can do something wonderful for our community. Poulsbo requests that you fund the perk because it's a great public facility for the community and the region, and it'll be a great project for the Kitsap Public Facility District. And with that, we thank you for your time and your attention. We're here to answer any additional questions that you have, and we'll conclude your evening by leaving you a packet of all the information that you've seen tonight. Thank you again very much on behalf of the City of Poulsbo.
Thank you. Any final questions from the board? All right. Then on behalf of the board, thank you, Carla. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Peter, for your presentation of the City of Poulsbo. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
I think we have some sign-ups.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please come forward.
Okay. So I'm with OSAFC. We are an American soccer club with Italian influence, and we've been around since 2008. We actually looked at the college marketplace as a location for fields, and so we're thrilled that the PERC has this plan going forward, hopefully. Our club works with youth, college, and professional play, so we're a bridge between these different levels of soccer. And we work with a lot of international students, so we see potential for study abroad opportunities, and we also see a lot of potential. We work with professional teams, so there are tournament opportunities, preseason opportunities, and of course those are all helped out by the proximity of the college and the hotel. So as well, we would be interested in bringing in a semi or professional club to the area. Kitsap has a lot of potential, and they just lost the next closest thing to a semi-pro team recently, so it's something that we're very interested in.
What is your name again?
Emily Magnato.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So you're a soccer club, did you say, with an Italian influence?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
How does that work?
So our owner and president is Italian, and he comes from a background of soccer, and he is bringing his expertise and knowledge to the area. And we've been building this up since 2008, so it's something that we believe very much in, and we are always looking for a place to have these events at, to have our team play, practice, and so many opportunities again for preseason and tournaments as well. So. Yeah, great.
One of 14. It's Magnato, right?
Magnato.
Magnato.
Yes, and this is Giuseppe Pezzano, so we have our Italiano here.
Oh, parla un poco Italiano. And the next person was Carrie McGinnis. And here by the microphone that's hanging on the standard there.
Okay. I am a mom of three. I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. And we moved my husband and I are both from South Kitsap originally. Listening to the Port Orchard presentation was pretty interesting. And it would be great to have a facility down there as well. But now we live in Poulsbo. We lived in Seattle for the last 12 years, and then we've kind of been pushed out, as a lot of people have been, and came to Poulsbo to give our kids that opportunity to get out of the city and be kids. It was getting kind of rough in Ballard, and we were done. There were a lot of opportunities over there for our children to have facilities and swimming pools and soccer fields and all those things. It was really expensive, so we were looking forward to getting them involved in things here. You know that the Union High School building, my son has taken archery lessons there. My daughter does gymnastics. It's I don't want to diss it, but we use it a lot. Our family uses the facilities a lot. My husband plays ultimate, my daughter played soccer, my 3-year-old is getting ready for all these things, and it would be great to give them and our friends' children this opportunity to have a facility that they're not scared to go into. You know, my kids are excited to be included in the community. My son's big in the KCMT. I don't know if you have heard of that. They use the old Bridal Blick building for the rehearsals, which there's been rumor will go away soon, and they will need a facility as well. It's a huge theater program for kids that pulls from all over the community, or all over Kitsap. Kids come from Port Ludlow, they also come from Port Orchard, and even as far as Gig Harbor to come to rehearsals a couple times a week. Once that Bridal Blick building is gone, because of the growth of our community, it would be great for them to have the opportunity for a facility like this for our kids who care so much about what they're doing to be involved in. And I would love to drive them there every single day. So when I heard about the project, I was happy to jump on board and do the artwork because it's important to my family to have something like this in our community. And it's important for our friends to have it for their kids as well. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the sign-ups.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now move on to number 7, new business. Port of Bremerton CNW Charrette invitation.
Yeah,